An echo on someone's end.
It's probably my fault.
Oh, no worries.
I'll fix it though, because I'm a good guy. Hey everybody, welcome to the live show.
Hey, dude. Oh, are we like live now?
This is the part of the show where we are live.
Nice. This is a Spaceballs moment. So you're saying now is now.
Really? All right.
Did I fix the echo? Is the echo less of a problem now?
I hear no echo.
All right. So it was me, but I fixed it.
I'll pull up a YouTube chat, although my connection's a little weak. So I guess
it seems to be better now, though. You fixed it. It could have been worse.
What's the title? What are we going with so far?
I called this. You had a title that was like Tony Hawk Quokta or something like that.
Oh, I forgot about Tony Hawk too.
Cap cuts a beast.
But what I do? I made a AI meme earlier today that was like for a kid's book called Sneak Out. Sneak Out Astral Projection.
Which did you use for that?
Just Bing.
Just Bing's. Which one is that one? Bing's.
The Bing is Dolly. It's just your average low maintenance Dolly, bro.
Oh, all right.
I wrote a kid's book in like maybe second or third grade that I totally plagiarized from my brother because he still had like, remember the 3-ring notebooks that you could like clip the pages into? It wasn't laminated, but it was the Punk Monks versus the Freaky Flyers, and it was the Chipmunks versus the Flying Foxes or something. And I just changed them to like squirrel. I changed the animal and basically page for page knocked it off. And it was the same teacher too. But
did she care?
They didn't have systems for checking, against LLMs and that sort of thing. No, I put in such a good effort. And then I think my first essay for her too was like a short story where I basically just hollowed out where the red fern grows. And it was, the same thing, a dog dying at the end and getting buried and going back to visit. And I was just recounting the story in my head and changing it just enough. That was what they were explaining to us, is you can't copy someone, you have to make it your own. And so, my third grade brain was like, oh, I get it. I'll do that.
Well, a lot of times you can't, when you're in third grade, you don't have enough experiences to really even, create anything original.
Yeah, I didn't get in trouble for it. And then I remember my first real book report was on the Shel Silverstein book called Lafcadio. Do either of you guys read Lafcadio? It wasn't a collection of poems. It was more of a narrative tale. But Shel Silverstein, that was a... And then by the time I got to high school, someone actually took some random scribbling I made on the side of my margins in class and made it their college essay. Something about going to Wendy's and seeing all the cars pulled in crooked and they weren't aligned with the actual parking spaces. And then you're in the conundrum of, do I follow what everyone else is doing and ignore the lines? Or am I like a bootlicker and need to line up with the line? I don't even know what the real message was, but...
Oh my God, that's a really funny idea for LLMs. Create good college essays that kind of feel like they're from the New Yorker. Like a splice between New Yorker short stories and college essays to get into college, because all the good ones, they always feel like they're just a kind of a rip-off of a really good short story essayist.
Did either of you go to college?
Yeah, University of Michigan.
And how many colleges did you apply to?
1.
Yeah, I applied to 2 schools.
Where did you apply?
MIT, and then the place I ended up going, which was University of Rochester. What about you, Andreas?
I did all these feeder programs. I was like, wait, you mean if I go to a community college before I graduate from high school, I get credit for high school and I get credit towards college, and if you have a C+ average, in community college classes, there's a UTAG program, which is a feeder program into the UC system. So they have to take you into the UC school.
So, all of a sudden, not only did they accept the credits, but somehow you bypass the up in the air feeling of
Yeah.
Am I good enough?
And then you're just like, okay, wait, do I want to go to UC Santa Barbara or UC Santa Cruz and stay near home? And I was like, I guess what I want to do is go. Like, I was thinking, I'm going to go to all these places, but I'm like, well, actually, it makes way more sense to have UC Santa Cruz, because what I can do is I can go to all the community colleges I want to in the entire state, and then finish up in Santa Cruz, where I'm from, which is like, I mean, not college debt, you know?
Yeah, Massachusetts has a great system of maybe 5 or 6 schools they kind of accept each other's credits. Yeah, when I was a sophomore in high school, over the summer I went to Tufts, and my brother, who's 4 years older than me, had through this university sharing program, he was at the MFA, the Museum of Fine Arts School in Boston, and ended up taking a philosophy class at Tufts, which I also then went to take the same philosophy 101, but I was, again, 14, and then also took an astronomy class. And that was in, I didn't get high school credit, but I did get college credit for it because it was college.
Astronomy is getting more interesting now, just because of all the huge amount of data.
I don't have the right microphone on. That's my problem. Okay, here we go. Better microphone. Better. Does it sound better now?
A little more bold and coming through.
A little more bold. I don't know. Okay, let me know if I should do
echo
cancellation. Or wait, they leave that. Podcasters leave this off.
You need a slide whistle. I came in a 3-pack, but it's like
bottom line. Rad Dad is cool. UCSC, BYU, Indiana University. Like, he said, he wasted a lot of money, had lots of fun. That's the thing that kind of sad about school. They like rig it so that you have to spend money, and then like they make you get these like long-term debts, and we all know this, but there's all these ways out of it. You know what I mean? Also, okay, let's just get into this. Pulp Fiction, banana slugs. There's a whole scene in Pulp Fiction which is all about
banana slugs.
When he shoots the guy in the head, and then he has to put on
gets the extra t-shirt. Okay.
Quentin Tarantino's like, oh, this is what I have to wear, right? So then all of a sudden you've got this black guy and a UCSC guy who are sitting in a bar talking about the homeless problem in California.
Okay.
It's all about the homeless problem in California, right? He's like, I'm gonna go walk amongst them, and I won't own anything. He's like, you know what? You'll be a bum.
Banana slug is like code word for a guy who tries to not only like sling his D, but like sell it maybe in the right circumstances.
I don't know about that. I would just say a spineless yellow, mascot. That's
to tie it to pop culture. There's a basketball player who used to be on the Celtics, Glenn Davis, who's now going to jail for he's going to trial for defrauding the NBA out of millions of dollars for their health. He was on other podcasts talking about how guys pay him $50,000 to fuck their wife. His wife.
Sir Real Nil Mill asked, did I go to Knights College? Yeah, so like my first college class, I was in 7th grade. I took a Java computer programming course, and everybody was at least 30. Some of them were like 50. I sat with this guy who was a C# and C++ and C programmer, C++ programmer. He was like 55 or 60, 50 something. And the dude was great. He helped me. I literally couldn't spell background. I spelled it background instead of background.
Oh, I still ruined
my syntax. These are the lessons I learned in 7th grade. But it was cool because everyone who was in the class wanted to be in the class, so that was good.
I feel like if I obsessed about learning to spell perfectly and was self-conscious about it, that my brain wouldn't be available to do other higher order functions. And I went to architecture school, and I talked about how I kind of focused on programming inside of a space, and therefore that was my excuse for never knowing directions between places. It was because I was like, my mind was inside a space; it wasn't traveling between them. Even my hometown growing up, there were like 6 little kind of city centers, and I'd have to really think hard about it to make sure I knew which road it was that actually connected them, because my experience of them was from the back seat of the car, looking out, kind of knowing where I was, but. By the time I got to college, so I took a year off. I don't know if I ever told you that, Andreas or Aiden.
Year abroad? That's good. Or
No, well, so
throwaway year?
the
Throwaway
plan
year?
was to go to Nicaragua and work on a farm with my friend, but he got cancer and was going through chemo, and his doctor wouldn't let him, and so I
Oh, it
kind of just
sucks.
ended
I'm
up
sorry.
working at Petco and trying to get in as much trouble as I could by selling weed from the moment I woke up until the moment I went to bed every day for like a whole year, and somehow made it out the other end, despite, as an adult, it's not funny to get in trouble, especially with the law.
I'm just saying there's some weird context to the Santa Cruz homeless problem, and you'll be a bum. And the idea that he's gonna walk without a wallet and he's gonna own nothing, but then he ends up being like, "Get my wallet back." I don't know that.
But
whole
in reality,
scene,
he should be like the Grim Reaper of justice should be coming for him. He just shot an innocent man in the face by accident for no reason. At least manslaughter. But no,
That
you just
happens.
change your
He-
clothes and
Yeah,
walk
but
on.
he
huh?
died.
yeah, he's on the toilet and he dies eventually.
Yeah, I know.
Oh, true that.
Yeah,
So what's interesting is by the time I was such an overachiever, and not that I need to like be all into myself, but just to introduce myself to both of you, for the umpteenth time for the first time. Overachiever in high school, 3.97 weighted GPA or something, had a whole bunch of college credits, took a year off. And then my first semester in college, I literally don't think I graduated. I didn't get a single credit. And I got refunded because I just didn't go to classes. I changed majors, ended up double majoring in math and art. And eventually, by the time I transferred schools twice to stick with my girlfriend who went to law school, I then was working full time and taking classes on nights and weekends in the summers and studying for a 300 question multiple choice test, a certification program to become a construction document technician, and passed all that at the same time.
instruction documentation.
Yeah. A document technician, technically. And then one step above that is a CCS.
Yoga's not endorsing crime. He's endorsing human rights obligations, which at some point or another, in some place or another, have been considered crimes, but really, I mean, unconstitutionally, or even, what's even worse than that?
See, I thought my highest fulfillment would be being like a sustainable farmer in New Hampshire, and then bringing fresh produce to all of my relatives, and just the joy of bringing healthy, fresh food to people would kind of be my fulfillment in life, maybe 6 months of the year. But marijuana and sharing that with friends and knowing someone else wasn't taking the risk, maybe.
So you're telling me you had a 3.9, went to college, started smoking pot, and then got a 0?
No. So actually, my sophomore year of high school, I was the kid on the back of the basketball bus. And if anyone talked about drinking a beer, smoking a joint, I'd be like, how do you know that's not the reason you missed the shot in the fourth quarter, dude? Like, you have to be totally straight edge. And then I had a friend who transferred from another school. Father was a priest, and he had already finished calculus, even though we were like in sophomore year of high school. And this ended up with us doing physics homework, AP physics homework, while getting stoned. But it started out with like, once I was going to try it. He convinced me to try it. And then it was one day a month, and then it was one weekend a month, and then it was just on the weekends. And then I smoked before school once, and then didn't realize I had a Spanish presentation, but like went in there and apparently spoke fluent Spanish because I was stoned. The hallways were doing this and stuff, but it helped me deal with my social anxiety, not by like being calmer and cooler and collected in social situations, but just by being okay with like being like weird and a little spazzy. It's like, I don't know. My friends kind of used to call me the cat. It's because like reflexes and stuff, but so then,
anxiety,
grew out dreadlocks over my year off, and that was when it may or may not have been like, there was a book in the library about how to import drugs, and marijuana is not really a drug, but
technically,
this was 20 years ago.
The word drug is a Greek word, and it means dried herb.
And just because it's legal in half the states now, again, doesn't mean it's legal to give it to your friend or sell it or grow it in certain amounts.
Although it is weird now, right? Like, it's legal in Germany. It's becoming legal all over the world. Something has changed culturally. And I do, coming from California, think it's interesting looking at the history, because there was a hemp and cannabis museum in Santa Cruz for a long time that talks about the ancient history of hemp and cannabis and the differences, right, of growing it for food, growing it for crops, but also medicine. And you start to look into, there really are medicinal uses. Tinctures were made for menstrual cramps for the Queen of
Well, and it's a
England.
big deal. It affects your blood pressure because it's a vasodilator. So it's one of these things that if you are on other meds and or have certain conditions, it is something that, a couple glasses of alcohol might make you feel intoxicated, and then it's out of your system within an hour or two. Whereas if you smoke a CBD joint, you could have a brain bleed by accident. Like if you're in the wrong state. So
yeah, I think
really?
there's always been the problem with marijuana, at least in my view, is that it's kind of, it's a lot of people view it the slave's drug. But it's also, it has like just such a long lifespan, and the humans,
it's because your body loves it. Yeah, no, everything else flushes out of your system in a few days, whereas
it's 2 weeks.
It's stored in your brain and in your fatty tissue and in your liver, so that if you ever are fasting, the first thing that your body does is it kind of shifts the ratio of blood sugar to fat that it's using and burning for energy and metabolizing. And one side benefit of that is that you are less likely to kind of gnaw your neighbor's face off because you get a little recurring high. I remember the first time I experienced that was like in math class, and
it is interesting that they don't have tobacco in North Korea because it's too expensive, and so they grow weed on the side of the road, and it's some third variety of cannabis, right?
Ruderalis.
I think you're right.
Yeah,
I think it's the Ruderalis.
Drugs in North Korea. They apparently sold heroin.
Well, now, my father was, parents very against marijuana, but just because it was illegal, and then once that wasn't the issue and they weren't worried about me getting in trouble, teaching a 15-year-old nowadays how to grow really premium marijuana is like teaching a child how to fish for sharks. And it's dangerous to get rid of it and make money off it, but talk about a life skill. If knowing when you're going to be in one place where you can take care of this thing in a closet, and you can, what else works that way where, you can generate income, but the legality and the distribution of it. See, one thing, unfortunately, growing up, whenever I was buying weed, it was just really good THC weed. And now Switzerland developed this whole CBD only weed where it looks and smells and feels and is sticky the same way. But I'd say 90% of the strains in Boston right now are either THCA or CBD, and shit ain't the same no more. Although I just got 2 bags of literally Cheech and Chong branded weed. They just came out with this, and shit's fire. Just so you guys know. It doesn't, although the bags aren't sealed. They're these fancy Ziploc bags that are a space age material. Their brand and everything is behind it, and they never heat seal the top of it. So like whoever is selling it could just swap it out with whatever. But
I agree with Brad.
I've already talked for 80% of the time here.
Well, I was about to start the show, so see you guys in a second.
No, I thought we
The world is very different now. For man holds in his mortal hand the power to abolish all forms of human poverty and all forms of human life.
Begins a very special time of the year for us. It's the time of peace and reflection. One thing we should all be thankful for is that we live in America, where we have the freedom to change things and the opportunity to grow.
I, John Fitzgerald Kennedy, do solemnly swear that you will faithfully execute the office of President of the United States. That I will faithfully execute the office of President of the United States. And will, to the best of your ability. And will, to the best of my ability. preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of the United States.
Preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of the United States.
So help you God.
So help me God.
Hey, Xirtus. Hey, Aiden. How's your
it
Sunday
going?
night going?
I thought we already had started the show.
We did, but we're doing it again. See,
I had my radio voice on. I don't usually sound like that much of a sociopath.
time.
Yeah. So here's the news in the world right now. MrBeast says that he would run for president. You guys might remember, like a few weeks ago, I was saying like it'll be 2032, I think, when he's able to run for president. And I made like a short story, which I don't know if I released yet. I should find out. I put a link on the Twitter, so you can find it.
His best friend that is a cross-dresser will ruin it.
His trans friend Chris will not ruin it because that will just sell it to like the other.
It's like saying you have a black
population.
friend now.
Yeah,
it's like
yeah,
if you don't have
it's
a
like
trans friend,
it's like a race card. I think Stefan's right. So he's got that, and you've got all these young people. So anyway, here's the deal. That's like 8 years from now. I made a short story about what it would be like if he were to win presidency 8 years from now.
I feel Logan Paul will beat him. Or Nick
I mean,
Fuentes.
do you mean like physically, or do you mean like
why not on the same ticket, my friends?
Yeah, again, we'll get into it. The point is, MrBeast says like Jimmy says if they could lower the voting age, he would run for president because right now he's 25, and the sad truth is, even in 8 years, he's going to be like 2 months too young.
Do people really know what they're signing up for though? That's a lifetime service detail.
Well, yeah, I mean, do people
that
know, or
there's
does
always
he?
armed people between you and anyone else you've ever known.
I think that's true. Yeah, I think the thing is, he already is his whole life. Here's the deal. Let's get to that point in a second. Adam says, why should anyone vote for him? I have zero reasons to ever consider him. Well, maybe thus far, I think Adam is saying this because he doesn't really watch MrBeast videos, right? And I disagree. A vote for Beast is a vote for tomorrow. I would campaign a platform for Jimmy Donaldson. I really do think so. Someone says I'd have to know his policies. I wouldn't vote for him because he's a popular YouTuber and getting an amendment to lower the age isn't likely. I'm out. And I just send him rebuilt a village video.
So, Aiden and Andreas, would you be more or less likely to vote for John McCain if you found out that he had a black illegitimate child? Because that was a polling question. That was he didn't have one, but you were allowed to ask a question that way.
I knew what that child was. It was like some adopted kid that he got.
It's not going to affect
I know, but it was this.
It's not going to affect a Californian liberal like conservative.
No, I know, but it was a commentary.
It's only going to affect
it was a commentary on campaign law where you're not allowed to just cold call thousands of people and make up scurrilous information that's not necessarily provably true.
Yeah, I don't think it meant.
But you're allowed to stir up conjecture, and you're allowed to call voters.
That is such a red herring on so many levels. John McCain is a red herring himself before we even get to nonsense about his like nonsensical life, and he's dead. But at the time, it was all a nonsense. It was like John McCain. No one thinks he's gonna win. This is ridiculous. Obviously, that wasn't part of the plan for him to win. It was just to like drag votes out of any other chance of anyone else.
Yeah.
Like, they didn't want the
I think
Ron
it was actually
Paul.
the Bush campaign that did
Yeah,
that
that was the
to
Bush
him
campaign
in a
for
primary
votes.
race.
Basically,
They found the loophole.
Basically, also, that is just furthering of NAFTA, because when you really get down to like what the Obama administration was doing. Okay, I don't even want to get into that yet. Here's the thing. I'm going to finish that sentence, which was that Jimmy says, we rebuilt a village, so I sent this video for him because I was like, hey, you should know like what, like, and also MrBeast,
Jimmy,
whatever.
First of all, he's the man, and the Philanthropy channel makes me believe that there are good things that are possible. In the world.
No, I mean, like, it's just a real world reality check for anybody. Like, what is he doing all the time? Well, he's going to countries that have have systematically been. These are countries that the United States, amongst other places in our CIA, have made sure had sustained slavery and sustained low socioeconomic.
And he brought them electricity and cell phones, and now they're all addicted to porn too. No, sorry.
No, that's a rainforest village that he's not related to. But the idea that they put in solar panels so that this orphanage can have access to education, water, etc., in a place where they've basically been forbidden because of infrastructure. There's actual infrastructure to keep infrastructure from happening, right? So he's defeating
NGOs. People, they're very skeptical, and sometimes the NGOs themselves get screwed because someone sells them a plot of land to do a development, and they didn't own the land to begin with.
Yeah, so but like the cool thing is he's actually going and finding these particular NGOs.
I've watched all his videos,
and he's helping these particular groups that are in their own countries running their own systems. So he's building up infrastructure, and there's transparency, not just in the sense that he's being transparent about what he's doing with the money, but whatever happens to these groups is now being watched by the world, right? He's put the eyes on these groups, and so he's
the most recent one was
the best chance for them, right?
So there was a woman who's taking care of, it's an orphanage or a school or something, and there was this real subtext that she maybe had kids before but was planning on having more, and it's almost deeply offensive that MrBeast and or the other guy who does the food pantry organization didn't leave a child with one of the people in the village. And I'm not saying that that's a universal thing on their end, that is. I'm saying it's a cultural thing where if they're really planning on investing their time and energy in this place such that they're going to stay in contact. She got in a car accident and they just bought her a new car. So if you're really going to be in contact for the next 20 years and be coming back every 6 months, what's the problem with starting a family over there? And in other situations, when I was traveling in Africa, there was some guy running a little jet boat tourist thing, and his right-hand man was a local and had 10 wives, but the guy who owned the business himself wouldn't take a local bride. And some people saw it as the most respectful thing he could have done. And other people were saying it's the most offensive thing. It's like, are you saying our blood is not good enough to mix with you? It's like, if we're going to know each other for the next 30 years, like someone in your village better be having a child with someone in my village or else something's wrong. No.
Okay, say it. I don't know if him listening. You don't feel like everyone has to integrate.
The Catholic Church has been pretty adamant on not doing that. So, Spain has been very big about don't mix blood. That causes problems.
Well, it implies multiple marriages. It's almost like a zip code rule, which is I could see why the church would be against. It does confuse things when it comes to inheritance and who's the firstborn.
I think we can get into Jose Francia and Paraguay in full integration. There's like a policy where everyone was forced to integrate with another. They could not marry someone.
Yeah, that was Paraguay, and it ended horribly for them. And the Triple Alliance.
Yeah, because the Freemasons decided to kill everybody, but I wouldn't say that's necessarily because of that policy.
Well, there's a term called endogamy, and endogamy means usually just only socializing, let alone reproducing and marrying within your.
Well, let me say, and let me finish my rant, and then you can do yours. I just want to say that it's interesting what MrBeast is doing. I don't want him to change the voting age necessarily. I mean, I do believe that we should change the age of office and voting to 14. I think 14 or fight. I believe that
I think it's 25 or 30.
Since I was 14, I've always wanted, since the Wild in the Streets movie. Wild in the Streets is the best movie, obviously, ever made. And it's, I've got the poster and the vinyl, and I believe it. I think we should just, if you're over 30, you're through. Anyone over 35 should be put in LSD re-education facilities, and we should just have the country run by children of the corn, But in the meantime,
can you believe they had LSD circulating before they had mushrooms? Like apparently the 60s was the psychedelic stuff was more about acid, and they had it, but the mushrooms weren't all that popular until the 70s and stuff.
I mean, I digress. If you haven't seen Wild in the Streets, you might not get my joke. So just understand.
Oh, by the way, I did watch the Cats and Dogs movie that you assigned for homework, and I have some commentary on it, but we'll get to that later. So,
forgive me. Which Cats and Dogs movie? Because I've seen 6 recently.
Oh, I think there is a sequel. There's Cats and Dogs 2. Cats. It was literally
first one was
and then the ampersand and dogs. I think it was in the context of talking about the Bored Ape thing, or
Oh right, yeah, the cats and yeah, the weird ape thing. Okay, hold on. So we're almost done. So basically, I don't want, even though I want you to watch this movie about where they make the age 14 and everybody 14 puts everyone over 30 in these concentration camps, because that's how that's how democracy works. It's fascistic. But what I'm really saying is that I don't want Beast to stop yet. I don't think that he could do as much good as president, which I think he should. I think he should be president someday. I seriously do. But I think, I know that sounds crazy, but I really think he should. I think if you paid more attention to him, you would think so as well. I'm just saying I don't think he should right now, because he can do so much more for Africa and the world for the next 8 years.
He has to figure out the soft sell a little better when it comes to being a businessman. But when it comes to what he does on his channels and through the philanthropy,
what he's trying to do,
he's 100% where he needs to be.
Yeah, he's actually doing real things. Like
but this idea of the A/B testing of the thumbnail analysis and following the number of clicks that you get based on whether it's this thumbnail or that thumbnail. And
that's
why
democracy.
That's
democracy. That's the thing. That's why he's going to win. That's how he's going to win, because he understands democracy in a way I don't. Right? Like, he can become the most popular. He's a popularist, right?
Studied graphic design in art school, and anyone who like studied art from a scientific, mathematical standpoint is like, well, yeah, duh, it makes a difference. And no, you're not really going to be able to quantify it. You can qualify it, and if he's trying to sell you on, that's the thing that I fear, is that he's going to undermine his credibility by claiming he's too much of a YouTube genius or something, and instead of finding a new middle of the road kind of thing to focus on.
I don't know if he's like a YouTube genius either. I think really he's lucky, but like he's disciplined.
He's extreme hard worker.
He works
He's
so
a genius.
hard.
He had a lot of foresight,
and his whole thing is you have to empty your cup to fill it. So I don't know. I mean,
and I would the guys who try to sell advertising on his behalf too sound like they want to wring his neck sometimes, and he does sometimes seems like he's just flitting between things, and
nobody else has to go around the world and build.
But if Elon can do like 10
Africa.
Companies the size he has, then MrBeast can do 10 different things.
Yeah, like it's not even. Here's the thing: he's turned it into a game show to save the world. You know what I mean? That's more powerful than the president. Like, who cares what the president does at this point? Because he can build 1 million solutions every year.
Well, it's funny you say that, because one of his biggest videos was Squid Games. And, you know, when you do have large competitions and you have casting, and in America, there used to be, you know, the Screen Actors Guild, you'd have central casting. And if you're going to put people on the spot and give their real name or a fake name and give information about their identity, there's some layer of responsibility you owe to those people in advance to let them know what they're about to be subjected to.
It's a massive stage show, Seema says. You think that MrBeast building wells is a massive stage show? He's not. You think the wells are not being built?
But that's how settlements are made in other countries. They're giant staged. Planned settlements, no?
Sure, but he's not. But that's again, like he's going and he's finding these small, already existing groups and that have been off the grid, and he's giving them Starlink solar panels and wells so that they can run their communities. He's building infrastructure so they can contact each other. It's like the Postman movie, you know? He's like this is
Postman Kevin Costner.
Yes, he's like MrBeast is Kevin Costner, and he's saving Africa because the entire place used to have infrastructure. Age-old argument.
The elders are going to kind of bemoan the fact that these young people are going to get educated and they're going to find out about the rest of the world, and they're not. A certain percentage of them are not going to resettle the homeland.
Video like
but it is freedom.
Postman.
You want me to just show Kevin Costner running on that horse? Kevin Costner post.
No, it's just it's so bad in that it was like trying to be Independence Day, and
no, bro, this movie is beautiful. If this movie doesn't make you cry, I interviewed David Brin,
the United States of America.
I was just talking to David Brin the other day too. It was funny.
You know, Postmen used to run on stilts.
Wait! Here comes that boy. Here comes that boy. Is this Anakin Skywalker? Come on, is it? It's not.
I don't think it is.
Let's just pretend it is for now, okay? Oh, the mom is like, you're gonna miss it. You're gonna miss it, boy. Boy, you're gonna miss the postman. You know how the postman is sometimes, boy. Like, you're just gonna have to like let your dreams fall apart, just like I did, boy. This world has no electricity.
So you were talking about the movie. It was
Here he is.
Wild in the streets.
He's coming back. He's coming back. Kevin Costner coming back with that letter. This is MrBeast right now, coming back to Africa with that infrastructure. He's taking it. He's taking it. He's taking the letter. He's taking the letter and he's giving the kid the well to live. Yeah. Sorry, what were you saying?
The Post used to deliver children.
Yeah,
you
that's
actually
true. And
accuse them of
bees.
human trafficking.
They still do bees, which is cool. Yeah, everyone's like, I have no idea about MrBeast, never watched. That's my problem. Is it's like, so basically we have this weird socioeconomic division, and we also have an age division between people who've never seen one reality to another. Like the people have no idea.
The title
what
of one of
these
his
kids
videos
live.
recently was, "I paid everyone in this village's salary for a whole year." How do you determine what that salary is and whether they were paid
Doesn't
fairly?
matter. Doesn't matter. But then if it's $1 a day
from a
in Africa,
philosophical standpoint, you could see what good times make for weak men, and then weak men make for hard times, and then hard times make for strong men, and then strong men make good times, but then the good times make the weak men again. And
yeah, but like it's the Soviet. It's like the Soviet. It's the post-Soviet Union. I mean, it depends. Okay, I know you should be though. You should be trying to poke holes, and we should be trying to find out if it's legitimate or not. Because for a long time, I was like, dude, a guy named MrBeast is obviously the Antichrist. That was my first thought.
Yeah, and
right?
it was MrBeast 666, the original. Yeah.
So you gotta assume that there's something kind of evil about like that.
When you go to Africa, which is a very Christian nation, and the idea that he's able to make inroads under that brand name must mean he's got some schmoozers, It's like
he's also working with Just Serve, which is the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints Mormon charity, Just Serve, which is pretty interesting, right? I thought that was pretty interesting.
Well, so what was confusing? So the last episode that he just published, maybe even today, the last, what do you call it? Posting a video. So it ended though, where the central teacher or headmaster of this little school
they got her
had been given a car. She had to drive over an hour and a half each day to kind of run supplies and stuff. And then she can be targeted and taxed and told. And then it's like she just wants to ask them for another 25 grand, they're like, I'm sorry, that's not really part of our budget in the program that we're doing. And then if she just sends them a picture of her car all fucked up, they'll buy another car. So it's like there is money available or isn't there money available? And I wonder what kind of system MrBeast has on the back end to kind of allocate funds in arrears for the videos to kind of follow up with people.
I think they do a lot of interviewing, there's probably a few people there that are very good at, because he's kind of a superstar now, that are very good at interviewing people and finding people that are not strange.
Piano Gigger, he's been blasphemous. Send me any links you have on that. I'd love to see anything you have on that. I haven't seen that. I'd like to know. Melissa's saying too young, irrelevant. See, that's adorable. I think it doesn't work that way, by the way. It's the other way around.
No, there are going to be kids that are 19 years old who have graduated from law school who are going to be putting people who are 40 years old in jail for a long time for election fraud because we told them it was really important,
Yeah.
And in certain states, the way that they enable and empower their children is to not hide the laws of the nation from them, is to literally incorporate the law school curriculum into the high school curriculum such that with a 1 or 2 year extension program afterwards, they could pass the bar exam.
So, like, for instance, you're not going to be like most kinds of, how do I say this? There's a certain kinds of jobs that you, by the age of 25, you pretty much, you're retired from, right? And so to be 35 in this field, like Herbert Walker Bush, right, kind of retired into being the president, right? He'd already done everything he could do in his former position, and then was retired to that, to being in charge of, first in charge of the agency, the intelligence agency, and then to becoming the president.
He was put in there as a sleeper agent to take the fall for 9/11. That's clear. I don't think he was the genius behind it.
I'm sorry, not W. Bush, his father, Herbert Walker. And so I'm saying, like, the president of, in the 80s, single term, only because he'd already done everything he could do and was basically retired. So the president's job, it actually makes sense.
Yeah, he felt that he deserved the job more than Reagan. That was the big thing, because like Herbert Walker did everything. He felt it was obligated to him that he gets to do it instead of.
Well, Reagan brought the prestige and the popularity and the fame back to the office, but George Bush brought the kind of seriousness and gravitas, perhaps, because no one, he seemed so unassuming and mild mannered, but he was.
Well, I would go further. It's like, so George Herbert Walker Bush disintegrated the United States into NAFTA, right? Like it was the creation with Salinas, what's his name? Gortari.
You're telling me.
Salinas de Gortari was the president of Mexico who privatized basically all of Mexico was a nationalistic. PRI ran everything. It was one government.
Yeah, PRI. Their whole oil business, like they
ran the telephone.
Saudi Arabia,
but they back then.
Why am I the only stupid one that doesn't know what PRI stands for? No.
It's the revolutionary party that's been in power.
Institutional.
Fox kicked them out though.
Partido Revolucionario Institucional. Yeah. So they were okay. Hold on. Let's start over. PRI ran things ever since the Cristobal Revolution. After a certain period of time, they had to auction everything. So they started losing Telmex, their telephone company, their railroads, and all because Salinas de Gortari was a Harvard-educated Miltonian who worked with the Bushes and everything to reenact, because there was the collapsing peso in the 80s. So he figured, all right, well, not always, but there's been several circumstances where the pesos collapsed, probably because of American banks, right? Like this is what happened in the 80s.
Well, sometimes countries inflate their currency to get their way out of debt now, you hear? So
that's what they had to
help them inflate their currency at the right time, but that doesn't mean you're helping everybody.
I mean, regardless, Vicente Fox was George Bush's sixth cousin, right? So after Salinas had to leave office because they only have 6-year terms, his brother was arrested for having hundreds of billions of dollars that he had siphoned off of the government. And so Gortari had to leave the country, right? And so he went, I think, to like a non-extradition country. I forget where. But yeah, Mexico basically folded all of its industries into private companies. Those private companies through NAFTA moved west and north, right? So you have all kinds of companies that like the brakes and car pieces that moved north, and then American companies that moved south. And then Canada was like, they forced their way into the agreement, but that basically disintegrated the way things were before the 80s. And then after that, America, I mean, really, they didn't go as far as they wanted to go because they worked on making the North American currency, the Amero, but the Amero is not available for like civilians. It exists, but you have to be like a bonds trader for these major companies.
Well, what big companies do, I had a friend who was working for Stop and Shop and Ahold, which are like a conglomerate of grocery stores. And when one sector of the company would come up with technology, and instead of like patenting it and selling externally, they would license it internally. And one hand of the company is shaking or patting the back or greasing the skids with another. And internally, they're just coming up with a price of what's a fair price for this department to pay that department. You know, how many people did it take to come up with this tool and to maintain it? And so I guess governments may work in a similar fashion as well. And what looks to the layman, I actually
a
whole lot of laundering.
I like Salinas Gortari. I think he's underrated. He stole a lot of money, but he also did some interesting things to kind of save Mexico. I mean, he only won due to election fraud, but that's because Pry was trying super hard to keep Pan from having someone elected at the time, right? And Pan was the industrialist, the nationalist, kind of, I don't want to call him corporatist, but you know. And so they were working their way up, and they were going to win. And so they basically just, the night of the election in the 80s, the voting machines, wouldn't you know it, they just kind of like, they broke.
How did he extract money from the government? Maybe tariffs, and then just pocketing it?
Are you talking about Salinas or which
one?
You're
saying on one hand he stole all the money. He didn't burn it like the Joker.
What Salinas did was he auctioned off all of the properties. So one of the reasons why in the 90s everyone who had a Mexican family friend had bought those calling cards where you could use a digital service to have a free phone call. They're like 90 minutes, 900 minutes, call collect. In America, you buy those cards. That's because they sold at an auction Telmex, and Telmex the the richest man in the world. Who was the dude who owned Telmex? Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't really study for this tonight. Carlos Slim. Sorry, Carlos Slim, which is not the rapper.
And is not the code name for Carlos Danger, who was Carlos Danger. Was
Carlos
someone's-
Danger.
I gotta admit though, he seems like a pleasant guy. There's something about his face that I like. I can't help it. But he spent $3.5 billion to buy Telmex from the Mexican government, and then he raised rates 250%, like instantly. So all of a sudden,
move, you know?
yeah, dude, Mexican phones got so expensive, especially during the dial-up days.
That's how you got all the vast majority of cell phones actually got into was from his company. And, you know, because, like, frankly, the iPhone is too expensive, even that. But all of, like, the Nokia phones are very expensive at that time. He was the guy that essentially put a lot of the telecommunications in Mexico, which was huge at the time, and it's still very big.
Yeah, Carlos Slim is kind of based, and like the more you look at PAN, the more you look at these groups, the corporatists, Telcel, right? You look at the corporatists that run Mexico, and they're the richest people in the world. Like there are very few people. I mean, is he still? What is it? 2013? Depends on what year you're going, but there's almost always a few Mexicans who are in the top 10. And people don't think about that, but like in the top 10 richest people in the world, there's almost always like 2 Mexicans. So Mexico is probably going to be the richest country in the world pretty soon anyway, just because of the way things are going. Like the fact that the East is going to be cut off from production. We're looking at Foxconn production either in Carolina or in Mexico, and I wouldn't be surprised at all to see all sorts of, you know, Silicon Guadalajara.
Well,
that could be the next thing.
DF means the Distrito Federal, and I think that's the capital city. I remember being on a stream with you and the guy who used to work at SpaceX, and he said he had an idea factory. And I thought he had said he had a DF factory, like he had a factory in the Distrito Federal. And I was like, that sounds like a good idea. And he's like, no, I have an idea factory. And I'm like, yeah, no, that's pretty cool, man.
I like your idea. A DF factory would be pretty sweet. There's nothing wrong with that idea.
But
wait, you asked how he stole the money. So I just really quickly. We'll go to that.
Yeah,
last little bit is he stole the money basically because every time he auctioned off one of the companies, which was like, again, railroads, telephone, everything else like that, there was like Superman bank system set up because this guy went to Harvard. So they ended up getting like pension cuts of all of these and an interest of all of these different accounts. And then they sent them to Switzerland, right? Unfortunately, huge amounts of his money was caught in Switzerland, or well, I don't know, fortunately or unfortunately, but still, I think he got away with like $8 billion or.
You're saying he got away with it if he had been doing the opposite. So what you're saying is he was privatizing things that were nationalized, or maybe started.
And he saved the.
But if he was taking private industry and putting it in the hands of the government, he would have been viewed in a different way as well.
Totally, absolutely, yeah, it would have been. George Bush totally helped this happen, and then they put in Vicente Fox, right? Which is,
and a lot of times pension
nephew.
houses were like ways to like make sure no one ever lived beyond 75, and it's like a shame, but like, yeah, there's certain things you want more anonymized and larger scale. When you have small pension plans, it's scary.
I mean, it's again like, where's the picture? Bush is 6 cousins with Vicente Fox, who is the president.
And then they wanted to put his little Kalergi mestizo, Jeb Bush's Kalergi mestizo, as president of USA, like the pan-US, Mexico, and America.
Well, Aiden, how do you feel about Mexican people being rich?
I'm for it.
Me? No, I don't care. I do not care. I mean, Mexico.
Well, I guess no. So the question is, how does it make you feel?
No, I don't care.
It doesn't make you feel.
Mexico used to be. Very,
so again, I initially phrased the question improperly.
It makes me feel really good to know that there are classy people with button-up shirts that don't like live in trailers. And that they're, you know what I mean? And that Americans, makes me laugh because there's all these Americans that think that they have it so good in their trailers, right? It's like, my name is Earl. Americans think that Mexicans are living so poor. And then you go look at a Mexican, you're like, oh, well, you got a nicer truck than I do.
I mean, I lived in Mexico in the early 90s. So like 94, 95. there were people that, that didn't have electricity. They did live in, not, I wouldn't say hut, but I would say abuelas, adobe, adobe mud, bricks. There
It's
was a
very
lot of that.
sustainable. You remake it each year almost,
Yeah, I mean, there was, poverty, but it's a lot of it is like accepted poverty, is that they want to live in their village that they want to live in. Once they got kind of control of the gangs, like you see in Guatemala, like most of the native areas are actually not there. It has lower murder. It has a very low murder rate. I don't know. It's very different. I mean, also most of Mexico is, from a geological standpoint, is very different from the rest of the United States. And I think I can say that with certainty of like half.
It is also huge. Wow.
Yeah, but a lot of it is like,
because there's a distortion on the map. The closer you are to the equator, the smaller it appears, relatively speaking. And
mountains aren't huge. Viewed as large as they should be. The surface area of them.
And Cuba is gigantic.
About a third of the country is inhospitable desert.
For now. And that's just to keep people like out or in. No.
Well, actually, there was that. It's not like
they had to prevent land migrations of mammals, and the way you do that is you create breaks.
Land migration of animals,
of mammals in particular, of large herding mammals, and then also primates. Well, the reason we don't have a whole bunch of monkeys up in North America running around and raiding our villages.
You definitely have the Comanche. Essentially, the Comanche and Apache tribes, they did pretty much kick out all of the native Mexicans north of Monterey, or even south of Monterey too, because they just didn't like them. Fair point. They're nice to Spanish people, but Spaniards, that's a different story, and is kind of seen as such a taboo subject that like Mexicans don't even talk about. Like they don't even know that story at all. But yeah, you have like a third of it, and then like half the country is literally at 2 miles, above sea level.
I'm here in Boston, and even I'm into history, and I didn't know there was the Great Fire of Boston in 1872 in the context about before and after. Like each city had its own Great Fire, but you walk down the streets in Boston,
wood, and then they just started to make things in brick.
It's a long history, and so Andreas, we started wandering down a path here, but we started out with the movie was Wild in the Streets. Then we ended up talking about See, it was definitely tongue in cheek when I was saying, do you think it's okay that Mexicans are rich? It's like saying, do you think it's okay that black people are rich? Like, of course, rising tides lift all ships. But I just want to clarify that for people that are unfamiliar with my sense of humor.
Yeah.
So on the page in front of me, I've written down something about the Book of Maccabees and the Hasmoneans and the Zoroastrian demon, and then Scaramucci actually being like, Scaramouche, can you do the fandango?
Oh, wait.
And the idea of there being really lifelike puppets in politics nowadays.
I feel like Mexico has more opportunity to grow because the North American dream still exists there, where the American dream is, I don't know if it still exists or if our dream is so weird now, because the dream with all the YouTuber kids is, that you'll like buy the lottery ticket and not have to, like, you'll buy a stock in a company like Nvidia before everyone else figures it out, because you're smarter than everyone else. You won't have to work so hard, and you'll be rich very soon.
Well, during the Depression, like the richest people, only like 10 of the top 100 went to college. And so the idea of finding a shortcut to fame and fortune, or at least prosperity, and
America's dream is a shortcut to prosperity.
Because my American dream is like you get straight A's, and then you go to a good college, and then you get a good job right out of college because you were such a good boy. And that's not really how life works.
Yeah, but Mexico doesn't seem like that. Mexico seems like the dream is like you can make anything happen. You can build stuff, and people have put value on things. That's one thing that scares me. I think people value things a lot more in Mexico now because of that. Like they care more about the value of something.
And
This
Spanish
makes-
is overtaking English as the dominant language in certain regions of Asia, and in terms of the dominant second language. And the language of Spanish in and of itself just conveys so much more emotion. Do you guys agree?
Definitely.
Nah,
I like to watch Starship Troopers in
there's
Spanish.
actually a very good. I think it was
You ever watch Starship
Buckley,
Troopers?
William Buckley
Oh,
had
yeah.
a very interesting conversation about that. He interviewed a Spanish writer about that.
Everything's more dramatic in Spanish. Like, dude, like, was it like Capitán, mi familia, todos mi familia estoy en Buenos Aires? I mean, it's just way more dramatic.
I saw a YouTube video of some guy being like, I was doing voiceover work and I didn't really like my voice, and then I learned to speak in Spanish, and this is how I sound in Spanish now. It's like, oh, okay.
Jeb Bush has one of those voices too.
Jeb!
When you see him speak,
Jeb!
it's like it's very masculine. Very masculine.
Sean!
What's up, Sean?
What's up? You got to let me know earlier in the day, man. I know you left coasters run on California people time, but you got to let me know
pretty
during
sure-
the day. You know how
I'm
late
pretty
it is
sure
in New York right now?
I'm the only West Coaster in the room right now. By the way, why do you look like Clark Kent? What happened? I just can't even recognize you right now. This is weird.
I love it.
This
Yeah,
is
I have
how
two faces,
raw
that's
we're
all.
getting Sean. He didn't even take the time to, put on makeup and contacts. He's just coming straight from the
It's a good look.
the Nirvana, come as you are sort of thing,
I wasn't complaining.
So wait,
Was
Sean, you
quicker
developed a
though.
yoga software platform scheduling thing?
That was a long time ago. Wow. How did you hear about that? Oh, did I tell you about that?
Yeah, my brain unfortunately doesn't forget things. I think it's the weed I smoke or something. But
Yeah, that was a while ago with this girl. I actually invented Uber Eats with her too by accident.
yeah, I remember
It's a
there was
funny
something
story.
about like ordering a bottle of wine and
No, we
I
were
don't know.
drinking wine and we were
Drinking
both
wine, that's
really drunk. And I asked her if she wanted to get French food, and she told me I couldn't drive. And I was like, "Yeah, you're right, but I can call an Uber from the French place." So
Right,
I
you
just
like
had the
you
Uber driver
jerry-rigged
pick
it.
up our food, and yeah, we sat there trying to figure out how to start a business for yoga scheduling. Never took off. I have the platform sitting around though. It's called the White Rabbit.
I'm about to reopen a yoga studio, and I don't know if I'm going to go with Mind Body or do my own thing. The analytics on there, I just had to dump all the data out the back end and make my own spreadsheets in order to understand which customers
Oh
were going
God,
through.
what kind of analytics do they offer? Is it Google or is it their own?
It's just the charts and the graphs that they put forward to me weren't the useful statistics. It's like baseball statistics. Home runs and strikeouts only tell you so much about a player. You really need to go a little bit deeper to understand, and sometimes invent your own stats.
Yeah, no, I don't doubt it. I have
So,
some.
do you remember?
stuff in
Do you
the
remember
new
Sean telling you
analytics.
the story about the Uber Eats thing too? No, Andre. Well, I'm just trying to contextualize how to feel about storytelling. When I went to go visit my friend in Toronto while we were in college, he would get so shit-faced every night, and he would have this set of jokes he would tell. And the later it was into the evening, the more it was that everyone else at the table had to help him finish his stories. And because it was like this humiliation ritual, this is the college, Trinity College, where Skull and Bones was filmed, or the movie about Skull. But there's some Native American feeling, oral history type tradition thing going on where it's not like a married couple finishing each other's stories. It's more of a collective. It's like canon on the Zertosphere. Some people watch all the shows, some people don't, I guess. So Lil Dicky, just to be weird, you know the rapper Lil Dicky?
No,
I've heard of it.
Little
Heard of him. It was a show.
He released a 10
Oh yeah, Lil Dicky.
tour de force of a music video where he's basically kind of playing the Joker, and at one point is claiming that he is prime time in a limo watching himself on prime time while some chick's going down on him in the back. And again, it's like Alex Stein. There's some interesting illusions there. There's a character that looks a lot like Alex Jones as well. But
Dude,
the first
Funny that people think you have to have money to do stuff like
it's
that.
called
like,
Ha 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 Ha. And he said he spent $1 million of his own money on this music video, kind of like a
That's wild.
Oliver
Why?
Tree. But no, as far as
I mean, I
just
guess if
something
you
that
really
if you
wanna
want
do
to be
something artistic.
disturbed and entertained, and it's musical. There's like 3 mini songs within it. And it's like you're watching a scene from the Joker, the scariest scene, and it immediately has me, or at least
Dude, I can't believe Cuba is 45,000 miles. What? That doesn't make sense. That's
From where?
so big.
90 miles from Florida,
They're
so
dinosaurs.
nothing's 45,000 miles away. That doesn't make sense. The Earth is like 23,000 miles around.
No, didn't they say that
Found
Cuba size? Isn't Cuba supposed to be like huge? It's 42. It's 42
Oh,
miles.
square miles. Okay.
All right.
Not linear.
Someone's
miles.
got their bullshit detector on for after midnight. Jeez, you can't sneak one by Sean.
Oh man, no, dude. The whole world is Cuba.
No, we it's good. We need people that are on point like that.
Well, let's see.
There was a guy on
Yeah,
Joe Rogan, the guy who digs
miles,
bones in Alaska. He was
You
saying
gotta-
shit to Joe just to sneak his
Hold on,
bullshit.
I'm interrupting you just to get you back on your own notes because you have a notepad that you had. A
Oh,
list
yeah.
of, there's itinerary. There were actual
So-
scheduled like
I mean,
subjects.
pop culture. We have in Boston. There's a pitcher on the Red Sox named Tanner Hook. H-O-U-K. I think that. Oh no, excuse me. H-O-U-C-K. And on the radio for like a week ago, they were calling him Hawk Tuh because he was starting to pitch really well. And when you like strike someone out and you spit on the mound and you storm off the field, like you're a badass and your name's Hawk Tuh. And then all of a sudden there's Hawk Tuh girl out there. And it's making me wonder whether or not it was a joke the whole time that, you know, maybe he gives a great blowjob or sorry, bad joke. I know nothing.
Well, I mean, it was already in the.
sexuality.
Remember, it was in The Simpsons that she spits in his hand, and he won't wash his hand. She goes "Hawk to," and he's like, "I'll never wash this hand." It's like the
Tony
whole.
Hawk. But here's the real thing. So Sean and Aiden and Andreas, there is hope for all of us now, and it's not because of Hawk Tuh girl getting famous. It's because there was a talent agency that just signed her.
All the French
What?
Canadians get it.
Well,
Tony Hawk.
she specifically, people were trying to groom her to go on OnlyFans, you know, because, you know, it's like you're flash in the pan and someone will make money off her and ruin her reputation. But the reason it was funny was because it was so unladylike and she seemed so feminine. And so if there is a talent agency that is willing and able to represent someone like that, who is known for something somewhat untoward, right? That she's the Hawk Tuh girl, but at the same time, she doesn't want to build her brand around it.
I mean, she's like, she just.
I just want to know the name of that
I
talent.
think she just
If-
didn't. She
if she
wasn't
was-
really into it beforehand, and now
If
she's
she was
just
super clever or something like that, but this is peak idiocracy, unfortunately, because it's just somebody who is famous for saying they're gonna spit on someone's genitals, you know, and like they're gonna wear a cowboy hat and stuff like that. They're not politically like aware or anything like that. They haven't said anything super politically aware. They've in fact, I guess, upset people on the conservative side, which would have been her, I thought, demographic. So I don't know. Now she's got some penthouse.
No, they want her to be a
deal.
stand-up comedian. There's not enough female stand-up comedians.
But she's
and
she's
not
non-degenerate
funny
comedian. Yeah, that's a
enough
pretty good
to
idea.
be.
well,
not
see,
funny enough to be
the,
comedian.
Yeah, I'm
the approach
wondering what
for
talent-
humor was to go up there and talk about your vagina unabashedly, whereas she is more ladylike because when she says something like that, she laughs and her posture changes because she's embarrassed because she said something a little untoward. And so her style of comedy is underrepresented, or her sense of humor and her sensibilities as a human.
I wish
are
her
not
the
really
best
represented.
if she's gonna be famous. Then I wish her the best. But I don't know. I feel like, you know, what I thought was kind of funny was the guys. I don't even know their names anymore. Who did the video with her because nobody knows who they are.
Oh yeah.
Right? Like the whole thing was that some group of dudes were doing some video and they interviewed her, and then people have taken that clip and gone viral with it. But nobody remembers the dudes who shot that clip. What are they called? Tim and D TV.
The thing is, those are all set up. They catch people walking by and they say, "Have you ever cheated on your spouse?" And they're really honest all of a sudden. And then, you know, it's like Alex Stein cheaters realm. You know,
let's have. Do you have that little like doop thing? Let's have a moment of boop for Tim Dickerson and Darius Marlowe. Thank you. I mean,
so do you want to know how famous
like,
Andreas is? All right. So get this. Zuckerberg just posted on Twitter. himself on 4th of July drinking a beer on his wakeboard. You guys saw that one or no?
Yeah,
And
arguably
on-
more based. Yeah,
Yeah. Oh, so what did he title it? What did he title it?
I forget what
He
was it.
tagged his photo with the words cringe or based. And we've been
Right.
talking about based or cringe as like a bit
True.
to do. And he was like being respectful. And, you know, it's like his, like, maybe he's a secret fan. But then, you know, like Colbert had a fake Melania on. And he said, when he welcomed her on, he said, welcome back on for the first time. Every time you're on is like, which is a recurring joke that Andreas and I make, which is, again, a little bit less over. Now, Roseanne Barr, last time she signed off an interview with Piers Morgan about a week ago, she said Jassara Nasara, which is, again, one of the first times I went on. I don't know if either Sean or Aiden are aware of the Jassara Nasara.
Not sure
thing.
if I was on that one.
No, that was supposedly if you whispered those words, it was like dodecahedron that the Clintons were going to add you to their body count, and it's
The National Economic Security and Recovery Act, NESARA, is a set of proposed economic reforms the United States suggested during the 1990s by private citizen Harvey Francis Barnard. Barnard claimed that the proposals, which included replacing the income tax with a national sales tax, remember how Trump literally said that this last month?
Holy shit! That
abolishing
and the bills would become
compound
red, white, and
interest.
blue instead of green. Oh wait,
Abolishing compound interest on secured loans and returning to a bimetallic currency. I mean, for Pride Month.
Is this
no less.
secured
People
loan
think-
where
so
you,
George-
put money away first?
George W. Bush, if he was really responsible for the towers coming down or allowing it to happen and building 7, then in theory he saved capitalism. Some people, he's the greatest president ever, and history will remember him that way.
You're skipping
because they tried to do Jassara
You're skipping
Nasara
the good
on-
part though, right? Which is that's the whole why you're just so fast. You
Sorry.
cut to the fun part.
Yeah, it's like skipping right to the
Yeah, so like the whole thing is this was supposed to happen, that there'd be a debt jubilee because we're gonna have this crazy economic collapse if we don't figure out how to consolidate certain debts. And the idea was to have a debt forgiveness on September 11th, 2001. That was gonna be, March 1999, 2000, 1998, 1996, all kinds of times before it. They had been talking for 10 or 11 years about having a debt jubilee where they would erase debts on September 11th, 2001, which is kind of based because that's also when the towers collapsed, which some of those towers had credit card and banking information. Okay, fine. I don't know. That was just, to me,
Logan
that was
Paul
like the
on his
whole...
podcast said something about the ever-mocking tongue, and his co-host was like, what are you doing?
Jassara Nasara?
Signaling to the camera. So the message is getting out there,
Yeah, there's some weirdos are listening. That's for sure.
So just as like a random aside, so again, I mean, did you know that there was a time in the 1500s where everyone in Europe was trying to figure out how to get closer to God, and whether it was reading the right book or worshiping the right deity or attending the right church or following the right teacher or praying the right way. And then somehow in the Americas, there was a rumor that if you ate a mushroom, you like got to meet God. And they're like, come on, what do you mean a mushroom? Like, how absurdly preposterous and arbitrary is that? Like, sure, there's dangerous mushrooms and then there's like edible ones, but what do you mean there's a mushroom that makes you like trip ball, and like having no context, coming from a culture that just had alcohol and maybe just had certain and the hand cured nature, with spores and propagating these things. I mean,
Was this
does
on the
anyone else think it's
itinerary?
really weird that God put those chemicals in a mushroom? It's just such a weird place to put them,
I mean, Alexander Shulgin. Alexander Shulgin, mycology, the idea that mushrooms in humans are opisthokonta. Opisthokonta is one eukaryote, and since we have the same neurotransmitters, it's more about that. It seems like it's more if the mushrooms themselves feel like somehow it's beneficial to them if things care about them, right? Like, I find it really interesting that...
Well, if things die around them, then they eat them, so...
Well, but like Paul Stamets' mother dying of breast cancer saved by turkey tail, I find that to be like a really interesting again, Starship Troopers like thing. Like the mushroom saved his mother. I look
Like
at
the
it like
miso
they
growing-
consciously did it. Yeah. No, miso is more of a space time thing. I feel like this is conscious Turkey Tail. This is Turkey Tail realizing that they're about to go extinct. They're now being proliferated by this guy, and he's got a lot of power in this system, and they know that. I think the mushrooms they have the same capacity to know things that we do, is the whole point of neurotransmitters, right?
See, but you go through a lot of these like hardwood forests, and it's hard to find the mushrooms. You have to know where to look, and there's certain tree funguses, whether it be oh man, the name's escaping me at the moment. Anyways, but here in New England, I walked down to the Charles River, and everything is crawling with lichen and mold and algae and moss, and just like a metal sign. There's nothing to eat. There's not even a wooden sign. Within a year, you leave it there, and it looks like a painting. It's just like a Jackson Pollock of just like nature just growing on it somehow. And I could imagine some people coming here and being like, "There's blight everywhere. Why would you live? You can't. This place should be abandoned. Like everything is rotten and growing with a specific mold that just grows on it. Like where I come from, if there's mold, it's very controlled and it's in certain places." Or just a thought.
Oh, the book, the video, the documentary that I worked on, the advertisement is up.
Oh,
Put a link up. I'll push it on the screen.
Okay, it is. Wait,
Put
I'm
in the
looking.
private chat.
as a funny aside, did you know that there's a parrot living at a train station in England, and it keeps fucking with people because it keeps announcing trains that aren't actually coming? It's just sitting and it's repeating what it hears all day. And no one knows whether it's the actual announcing or the...
Looking it up right now. Okay. Got it. Only put the tall whites after map.
Did you put the link in the? Put the link in the private chat.
By the way, the new Little Mermaid movie has a couple dope songs.
Do you mean the new
Like
Little
meme
Mermaid,
songs?
like the baby Little Mermaid, the little
One of
baby,
them sounded like That's So Meta. It was something
the
about
little,
you.
s- the little CGI one. You talking about the little CGI one?
No, the one with live action now.
Huh? I haven't seen it yet.
I haven't seen it either. It's not free.
Well,
So, guys,
YTS.mx.
has this stream discussed the debate yet between Trump and Biden? That was wild.
I'd love to hear your thoughts.
I feel like there are a lot of people who were surprised by it, and there are a lot of people who kind of expected things to go that way. And yeah, the fact that the divide was that wide kind of worries me.
So what I thought, I think I might have said this, but I'll say it again because that was funny, was that a lot of people who were conservatives and don't like Biden were like, what? At first were like, wow, he did so much better than I thought he was going to do. I'm kind of worried now because he was able to stand up, you know? And then like a lot of the Democrats who were pro Biden were like, oh my God, he's so terrible. And we're like, what? No, I mean, that was pretty good. Have you not been paying attention? Have you not heard anything from him for the last year and a half? You're not even paying attention. He's not driving.
Well, it's what I think is insensitive and ageist is that in the news, the take that, well, he's focused and determined, but his thoughts escape him sometimes and he loses the way with his words, which, you know, Andreas, as someone with an aging parent, it's not like funny to hear people make fun of people as they age.
No, listen.
As soon as they slip,
this is the key to solving the debt crisis, Joe Biden, because Joe Biden is proof that senior citizens can do any job they try to do. They don't need retirement; they need work. They're just lazy.
Dude,
Once we give them all jobs instead of a retirement package, then the national debt crisis will be solved because we won't have to pay things like Social Security or Medicaid. They'll be earning their own health insurance.
I read it as the job of
He's
presidency
freeloading
is
seniors.
so...
He can pull their weight. Damn it! I don't
Well,
care
in
how much
Japan-
they
That's a hot take, Mr. Morris. You know.
In Japan, they have mecha suits for the Japanese to pick strawberries in their 90s, so don't worry, that'll come. But I think that the real
No,
issue is
they
that
don't need
we
mech
could.
suits. Look at Joe Biden. He sprints around like a fucking champ. Come on.
I think that the point is anybody can do anything. Like the idea that MrBeast couldn't be president, like obviously Biden could be president, Bush could be president, all these people could be president. Obviously anybody could be president. So
Well,
it's
it's
not
like,
that
I think
important of a job or hard to do.
I think something that resonated with a
It's like
lot
the dude
of
abides.
Democrats
I can't be president because I
What-
can't
what
keep my
was
mouth
saying,
shut.
with
Sure.
Biden was
Yeah.
that you could see, Trump pointed out, you didn't fire anybody in the last 4 years. You had so many bad things that happened, but you just have people play off of it. You wouldn't have anybody fire or take over or say, hey, we need to do something different. You just
That's
weren't
not
even
true.
there.
He had that prosecutor in Ukraine fired, the one that was looking into his son. So you don't say
that
he
was
didn't fire
12
anybody.
years ago. Like,
To be fair,
No,
they
but
also Biden did fire on a lot of innocent
and
people.
Jen Psaki got the axe, man. She got the hook. Off
Jen
the
Psaki
stage
just wanted
left.
money.
What?
She wanted a 4 to 5 hour job. She wanted to do something else. And I think
It's
she's
supposed to
part
be
of the
springboard for
Obama's
her. It
original
was, yeah.
people
She's
that
got her own
weren't
show
really
now.
fans of her in the beginning. A fan of Biden at the beginning. Like most of Obama's, Obama's dream team of campaigners, they never work for Biden. They didn't like him.
Well, Biden upset Michelle Obama because Hunter's relationship with his brother's
You
ex-wife.
saw that Axios article.
I don't know if I
That is
saw
so weird
that
to
article,
me.
The
but I'd like
Axios
to.
article that brought it up, and you see it in Hunter Biden and Hunter Biden's ex-wife is best friends with Michelle Obama, like really good friends.
Yeah, and they stopped talking.
And
right?
when
Well,
he
they're only
started
allowed
having
to
his
talk
big
to like
cocaine
8 people.
problems
You know?
that they got so out of control was
Kathleen
in
Bull's
2014
divorce.
to 2015, and
Wait,
he
what?
was. This is Hunter Biden.
So
Hunter
Wednesday,
Biden's
Axios published a
ex-wife is still friends with the Obamas.
Here's the deal. Former First Lady Michelle Obama responded to a rift. Biden Axios published a report detailing that Michelle Obama had recently become frustrated with the Biden family over her friend Kathleen Bull's divorce from President Joe Biden's son, Hunter Biden. The report cited
Go
on
down.
the source. Go ahead and read yourself.
No,
It was the Axios one that brought it up.
I thought you were gonna say that's what
Like
Kathleen
Michelle
Bull,
Obama,
divorced
they,
from
do
Joe
daily
Biden.
events
President
together. They're really good friends.
Hunter Biden, Joe Biden's son, divorce from Kathleen Bull. The report cited anonymous sources familiar with the matter and detailed how Michelle Obama has expressed frustration over the divorce and has appeared to be absent from Joe Biden's re-election campaign. However, a spokesperson for Michelle Obama responded to the reports, telling Axios that, quote, she is friends with Kathleen and with the Bidens. Two things can be true. Okay.
So
That's weird to me.
okay, I'm just going to point this out.
Is that wait,
100% in
Hunter's
his little,
ex-wife?
Yeah, Kathleen
Hunter-
Bull
No.
is Hunter's ex-wife.
ex-wife that he had.
That was
kids with.
before Hunter got with Bo's wife, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Wait, so Aiden,
But-
do I need to put on a tinfoil hat for this theory, or I think just my yellow hood
Let
will
me-
do?
this
Let's
is
go. I
good
want to
enough.
hear it. I
Like
want to
this,
hear
Let
it.
me do this. Let me do this.
Yeah.
Okay, Kathleen. Okay, Hunter Biden. He knocked her up. They had a shotgun wedding, but Hunter Biden and her have been, very good couple. They had 3 kids, but then he started getting into cocaine after his brother died. He definitely was doing cocaine beforehand, but she started noticing all these drug paraphernalia. Now she's best friends with Michelle Obama at the same time, and Hunter knows this. And Michelle Obama was always at their house because they like doing things like morning walk, play pickleball, that type of thing.
Well, the Obama chef, that was actually the guy that was cooking Obama's crack, but that's why they had to kill him, because they trying to make sure he's not so whacked out all the time.
But
Sorry.
there had to be something for Michelle Obama, because like Hunter becoming a crackhead, I mean, like Obama was kind of a crackhead for a few years in their
You don't
marriage.
just become a crackhead. Like if you don't start that shit in like your teens or your early 20s, that you never
Biden
start.
grew up so
They
poor,
lived
he
in
was
they
huffing
live
paint when he
they
was
live in the
10, dude.
Northeast and Chicago. Drug usage is rampant there. But what I'm saying
Yeah,
is,
but he's probably been into it since college. Like you don't pick that shit up in your 40s.
No, since he
yeah,
was
of course.
10.
Like, and he even mentioned that he was doing it in his 20s. But what I'm trying to say is that his cocaine usage and the things he was doing were so bad that Michelle Obama will not even support. Like, she's like, I want to be 500 miles away from that family.
Like the coke was really bad, or
I've
his
noticed-
habits were
God,
really
okay, guys,
bad?
no, like he did something so bad because she stayed with Barack when he was doing drugs and it was bad. You know, the Larry Sinclair shit. So he did something.
Some
so
girls
bad
like watching
I
their guy.
think
suck
he
dick,
gave
you
her an
know?
STD. I think he gave Kathleen Boole an STD.
Wow. Oh, like you got it from a hooker and brought it home?
Yeah, something so bad something so terribly bad.
But what is
for a
it that you
40-year-old
would do
woman to
on
have
drugs other than
that-
like stay awake for a while?
He just said it. Like he thinks that he brought home an STD from a hooker or something and gave it to his
Well, that was inevitable.
his wife, his
She got
girlfriend. What were they at the
some oil
time?
Crack. He
Wife.
kissed her and some crack got into her mouth. Something
That would
so
probably be
bad.
coke.
So I mean,
Dude, what you
according,
just said.
let me.
What you just said makes
No
zero
sense.
sense, but okay. I'll
I mean-
ignore
No,
it.
if you have like cocaine on your lips and you
Drug
kiss
resident.
somebody on a mucus
Yeah, but you
membrane,
said
then it'll go to the other person. Yeah,
It'll be nummy.
that's how that works.
So
Why do
Kathleen,
you think
And I'm not
let
saying
me
drugs
cocaine
are
on their
good. I'm
genitals?
just
Like
saying.
All
it
right.
absorbs.
settle down, boys. Settle down. Kathleen
God, it's
Ann
like-
Boole was born in Chicago into a middle-class Catholic family. She worked as a lobbyist and investment manager. At the age of 23, she met Hunter Biden, the son of then Senator Joe Biden, and Neela Hunter Biden died in a car crash. While the two were working as Jesuit volunteers at the Catholic Church in Portland, Oregon, Boole and Biden began a relationship a few months after the meeting, and she became pregnant 3 months into their relationship. So they're married into wedlock, like you said. Close friends. There we go. 2015. Boole and Biden formally separated due to Biden's infidelity, alcoholism, and drug addiction. Boole requested Hunter to leave the family home on July 5th, day after July 4th, 2015. On December 9th, 2016, Boole filed for a divorce, and on February 23rd, 2017, she filed a motion in the Superior Court of the District of Columbia seeking to freeze Biden's assets.
Whoa.
See, what's interesting is when you have kids together and one spouse finds evidence that they think the other spouse is doing drugs, then they have to file for custody. Otherwise, they are essentially not
They'll
only
just lose the
condoning
kid.
it,
All
but
her
they're
kids
then-
are out of
Like,
They're
if one
both going to
parent
lose
now.
their kids.
Their
Yeah.
kids are out of the house by now.
Okay.
But
See, it's
Like,
my
yeah, I
dad,
have
whenever he saw
noticed-
tin foil in the house, he thought I was doing drugs or something. And I'm going, like, he even thought it had to do with smoking weed. And I'm like, tin foil? It was like a recurring thing. And I kept trying to explain to him, like, I don't even know what drugs one would do with tin foil. But, like, clearly in your childhood,
I can
there
think
was
of a few.
something. But, like, drink mineral water, you know? Like, red, white, and blue, go prime. Maybe
That stuff is
Logan
really
Paul will
good.
throw you a bone.
But
Please
so
drink
Michelle
mineral water
Obama
instead.
was like,
I've noticed a
Was
distinct
like
lack of
a-
the Obamas in this campaign. A distinct
Yeah.
lack of the Obamas. Like I have not seen any. Like all of the stuff that Barack Obama is supposedly saying about the campaign is all being filtered
Okay,
to us through
Barack could be
talking heads.
VP. Barack could be VP. Barack could be VP. Barack
No,
could be
it's-
VP.
it's-
Barack
there's
could
something-
be VP.
You know what
Barack
I
could
think
be
it
VP.
is? Here's
Oh
what
my
I think
God.
it is. Here's what I think it is.
It's
The
just
Obama.
cooking.
All right, Trump.
And then
Trump makes a
then
deal.
Biden could step down on the first day and turn the entire presidency in term over to Barack Obama, and that would be
I think
legal
he
and
would have
within
to
the
do that-
boundaries of the Constitution and the
Right.
amendments.
So
Oh
what
my
I
God.
I
think
think he'd have to do that halfway
Uh,
through the term or something, or Barack would have to like relinquish it within a year. There are rules about that.
there's no way that they need to do all this. Here's the deal.
Wrong,
Like
as Trump would
Obama.
say, wrong.
Obama's gonna.
And I'm not so sure. I might be wrong too, but
Hold
I'm pretty
on.
sure I'm right. I looked into it.
All right, so Obama already is in a situation where, I mean, before everyone with their whole QAnon thing are saying all these people are going to get arrested. Obama's not going to get arrested, right? And this is a deal kind of presidency. So Trump is going to make a deal with the Obamas to make sure that they're safe. That's what it looks like to me. He's going to get into presidency, and then he's going to protect the Obamas.
But
and whatever that comes with.
I think
Yeah, because Trump's gonna be president probably at this
He
point.
What do
could
the
choose
Obamas
George
need
W.
protection
Bush as
from?
the
They've got
VP.
immunity.
I think
Trump would.
it needs to be said. I think Michelle Obama is not necessarily against Trump right now because Hunter did some massive fuck up, and she was there helping kick Hunter Biden out of that house and was providing, Democrat lawyers, divorce lawyers to
That
help
just
her
sounds
out.
too human to me. Maybe it's as simple as
Well,
all
she's
that.
good friends with her. I mean, like they always spend time together. Like
How do
She's
you guys
also really
feel
good
about
friends
the
with
"Where's
W. Bush.
Hunter"? Hey, Joe, where's Hunter? Do you remember that?
Well, isn't
Like,
he like?
Trump
Isn't
was-
that the deal that like the White House, like Biden's not awake for more than like 4 hours a day? Like if you live with someone with dementia,
But
like
how are you
they're
going to
tired a lot.
taunt a father whose son is sometimes in ill health?
Hunter's probably. I mean,
No,
they're
where's
finding
Hunter?
bags of coke at the White House. He's there at the White House running the show.
Well,
and
it's
this
like
is the thing. It's more and more of him being a part of the presidency.
Look, the Secret Service agents and the strippers that they use are going to be doing drugs, right? Yes or no?
Some of them.
Strippers,
Are
not
they
the
going to
Secret
be?
Service.
Do you want
Secret
them to be
Service
doing
agents
drugs that are
do not
tainted?
A lot
drink
of them-
when they're on call. They
I
get
think
tested for that
certain depends PEDs and things like that, and also
They
no,
get
no.
tested.
Yeah, gear. I'm sure all that
There's
shit.
all certain kinds of salts
And
that people are
there
using.
was like they were caught drunk driving once at a
That's
party
different.
during Obama's
Drinking's
time, so
different.
they're now much more regulated.
A lot of the Secret Service are Mormons. Like, there's a lot of course, they're not drinking, but like the
Yeah.
amount of Secret Service and military personnel that are taking PEDs, pets, and other sorts of micro stimulants and things like that. There's more.
Most of that's prescribed nowadays. Like they've gotten
Yeah.
rid of the era of bathtub steroids for cops
Right.
and football players. Like that's
Yeah.
why that's why football players are allowed to do steroids now because it's coming from a doctor. It's not like something their high school buddy made in his basement.
That will give them cancer within 10 years.
Yeah, well,
Tell-
no,
tell
the
Vince
doctor one's
McMahon
going to be
that, you know?
better.
Yeah,
Just
that.
think of
But,
like
steroids are actually helping people live for decades longer. If you've read Juice and you look at some of these athletes that have had doctors give them prescribed certain doses of certain periods over their life, there's benefits that have been shown.
yeah, I need to
Yeah,
take a look
because
at
it's
that.
not about how you look in the fucking mirror. It's about the doctor taking measurements on your body and like making sure you're improving.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, it's to say, taking certain supplements for the purpose of making sure that your body's elasticity of genetics live longer is a totally different reason than trying to be swole, obviously, right?
But have you heard of natural HGH boosting?
I
So the
mean,
Red Sox had
generally.
a young
Dolph Lundgren
rookie.
is the exact.
This is
bashing
steroids,
that
and I
happened.
buy this
Got
at
a lot of
CVS.
cancer from that.
It's called what?
DHEA.
Yeah.
Yeah, dihydroepiandrosterone. Look up what the molecule looks like and compare it to a fucking testosterone molecule.
It's like
Your
Mark
kidneys
McGuire
and
had
your
the bottle of
test-
androstenedione on his
No,
shelf.
I'm just saying Dolph Lundgren.
That
is
shit is
the poster
wild.
child of cancer for steroids.
And
What
yes,
about
the
it?
wrong
Seem
kind.
weird.
If you're experimenting with it as a novice, I agree. It is clear, though, that there is some sort of, I would say, quality of life enhancing science that is there, and whether it's available to everybody. But so Jacoby Ellsbury, when he was a rookie, he came in as a scrawny 175 pounds, and in one off season, he put on 25 pounds of muscle or 20 pounds of muscle.
Whoa.
And usually when
That's
that
not
happens early in a person's career, they accuse you of taking steroids. But what he did, he specifically said he slept between, I think it was between 9 and 12 hours every single day. And
Bro,
so when
I
you
don't care
sleep
what
is the
the
only
fuck
time
you're
your body
doing.
naturally makes HGH.
No, you're not putting 25 pounds of muscle on in a fucking year. What he did definitely damaged his heart. Probably. Like, with that much muscle growth, there's absolutely no way his cardiac muscle didn't respond to those doses. Are you kidding me?
Thing
The
is,
trick
he
to
was
that shit is
scrawny
keeping it
arms.
low enough that your heart
Look at
doesn't
Ichiro.
enlarge.
You can be a string bean and be really, really, really good at baseball. And then he
What was he,
all of a
fucking 8
sudden-
feet tall and like a bean?
Yeah, he was a string bean. Yeah, he was the fastest man on the planet. Couldn't even see
I mean,
him.
yeah, if you fucking run in gear, duh. Especially if you don't weigh anything.
No. Later in his career, when he joined the Yankees, obviously he's doing gear. But like early in his career, the thing is, Hank Aaron died, remarkably before he could kind of do his tell-all, because he said halfway through his career too, he was getting a little sickly and wasting, and all of a sudden, the next season he went back to hitting 40 dingers. And
I want to quantify my statement before. Yes, this technically counts as steroids, DHEA, but it's not directly anabolic. Your body has to process it to make it become testosterone. But
Okay.
yeah, like it's literally like if you eat cholesterol, your body has to put it through 5 or 6 different steps. It's called steroidogenesis to actually turn it into testosterone. This is essentially the second to last step before your body turns something into testosterone.
So you know the Balco regime was the cream and the clear.
The what?
So Barry Bonds never injected shit into his ass like Roger Clemens did.
No
vitamin B
fucking
shot.
way, really?
So the cream and the clear are two topically applied.
Oh, that's dangerous though,
hormonal
because if you have skin-to-skin contact with another person,
other
it transfers
people,
to them.
yes, and you can't wash
Yeah.
it off. That's the
It
thing.
means you can't have
You
a
go
girl.
pick up your kids afterwards,
become
and
a
all of
guy.
a sudden, yeah. No, he would. That's
Yeah.
why he would shave his head, and his head grew like 3 sizes. You know.
Yeah, like I said, like when you have so much shit in your body that things like your head are enlarging, then your heart's also going to be responding to that, and you're shortening your life. It's not good for you.
Is that true? But like when you're hitting your growth spurt, same shit. No, I mean obviously it's like not ideal, but like
I don't know.
Most people are, honestly, like there's been
7'9"
studies done on
basketball
eunuchs.
player.
Eunuchs tend to live longer when compared to regular
God,
men
that's
because
not true.
testosterone kind
That
of
is
does. Yeah, about
true.
10 years.
Neutered
is
cats
true.
die younger because they're
No,
neutered
eunuchs,
ferrets.
like,
do.
look, in ancient Egypt, they actually
Look,
did
obviously
studies.
we follow our pecker and it gets us in all kinds of trouble. So yeah, we'll probably live longer if you don't have one.
No,
but I
we're
mean,
talking
come
yeah,
on.
certain things only happen to
195
men.
to 100 years, 3,000 years ago. It's just something like, I don't know, but
It burns the candle brighter, testosterone. It just makes you, like,
well, they also are
obviously you
not
can
having
moderate the
prostate
effects.
cancer. They're not getting prostate cancer.
That's
Eunuchs.
also true, yeah.
I mean, what do you think? Like 75 to 80% of people have some sort of prostate cancer by what, age 85?
It is a high number. Yeah, because it's one of the most testosterone sensitive organs.
Aiden, I hope that statistic that you just gave is off by at least an order of magnitude. But I might be wrong. It's just on the face of it, what you're saying is all humans as they age get cancer, and that's not true. As far as that might also be true.
No, the
I
amount
hope
of
that's
men
not
that get
true.
prostate cancer or get prostate.
Oh, there's like 1,000 cancers. Like
multicellular life evolved from cancer.
Oh my god.
Maybe, yeah. I mean, mutate, yeah.
Well, imagine a unicellular organism, and then all of a sudden it starts clumping up. It's probably not going to be healthy for the first few generations that do that.
You know, remember when Biden said, "You're a lying dog face"?
Pony soldier? Yeah.
Aiden, you remember that line?
Pony soldier?
He was at a
that was during the
I
campaign.
was an enlisted man.
Like,
I had
All right,
just
wait.
arrived at Dallas.
This is the
I was
project I've been
walking
working
back to
on.
my barracks.
Sweet, let's do it.
I was an enlisted man. I had just arrived at Dallas. I was walking back to my barracks from the weather station, and one of the tall white teenagers was following me. If you're out in the desert alone and they're coming towards you, what will I do if they come past that last sagebrush? Do I get to panic then, or do I get to just pray to God? Having a group of extraterrestrials walk up on you, even if they're friendly, can be a terrifying experience.
They walk, go to, right?
There were 41, at least, weather observers before me who went out there, and they had all vanished without a trace.
You did like the kind of the high-end B-roll.
Yeah.
Really?
What he was saying. That
Walking
was
with
tight,
the,
man.
Walking
That
with the
was tight.
tall whites. That's a really funny title. That's pretty
That
funny.
was tight.
There's
like
no
it-
fucking way those aliens are real. I'm sorry. No.
Do you think they're just skinny, tall white girls? What do you think, Sean?
Probably.
Okay.
Well, I
You
mean,
know,
a
I
lot of
was
what we were like doing was like,
What happened?
I think he just left. He was like, no.
Oh shit.
I think you hurt his feelings. No, I'm just kidding. I don't know. I mean, aliens is a funny idea, but maybe like
I
some
doubt
people-
they're gonna be like sending like actual representatives of their species to be like getting off of a ship and saying what up here. You know what I mean?
I mean,
like,
I'd
they-
like
why
to
would they-
use
they did that already.
I'd like to have
What?
like a robot body I could control. That was, if I
I
was.
think I'm gonna get robot legs. What was that from Grandma's Boy? Remember?
And also,
No, there
from
is a
Mortal Kombat.
actual-
Sit on my face. Sorry.
What happened?
Andreas.
If If he
Right,
like
it'd be funny,
leaves, does the
everybody.
whole thing end, or is it like something he can come back into?
No.
How does this work?
He's giving us a chance to show why another show should come poach one of us and offer us a deal to be on their program instead.
Oh yeah, that's a great idea.
So say
I'm
something
sure
smart,
you
you know?
could. Yeah,
Wait, was it
I got a few things.
that was sarcasm.
I thought Aiden had like a thing he was about to say, but if not,
Oh,
I
true,
wasn't sure,
true.
No, what we're like.
Show and tell. So
Okay,
this is the
what's
tell part.
interesting about like my spiel about his work is that we have like a few people that have written about, you know, the UFO thing. We had that colonel, we've had that engineer that basically described a lot of what they did, but a lot of, especially the colonel, the lieutenant colonel, he was putting a lot of counterintelligence into what he was saying. And be honest, you know, counterintelligence, and it was also a lot of what he was saying. People in the UFO community knew what he was saying was not true. It wasn't that well researched of what he knew, and if you know, a lot of it wasn't a compelling narrative. You know, you can explain what you did in the UFO field or in the top secret thing, and you know, a lot of times.
I mean, how many of these UFO
somebody, if you just do a 10-minute spiel of something, it's not interesting.
How many of these alien stories come
No,
out of
and
military?
what you
Like,
did enhanced it.
really-
I have to say, because right, if it was just that guy is like my father. He goes, no one wants to look at me on camera, and I'm like, no. People like learning from people who have gray hair, and they're not only looking to tune into something where they're attracted or like person's like model looks or something. But no, so right, that guy sitting in a chair, kind of recounting his tale for the umpteenth time, looking like he's like a prisoner of war being forced to like say these things almost. No, but what you did and what you stitched in between blurred the line between me, or made me wonder, is that actually a photo? And then going, no, of course it's not really a photo, because I can tell it's like not a true human, but again, it was like photo.
It was
realistic.
Uncanny Valley.
It was
Like,
photorealism.
Uncanny Valley was a lot what I was thinking of. Like,
and the color matching throughout, it didn't feel like it was like a bunch of clips that were like hard cut together. It was very smooth color wise and aesthetically, and even where the eye was on the frame.
I think these alien stories are propagated by the military to keep people from looking too deep into where the weapons might be getting tested. Yeah.
But was that work, or was that just volunteer?
I think he was working. There's no ex-military after a certain level.
A lot of it was like I volunteered my time to do it. The thing is, with
it's like that's like a portfolio piece for you, though. You know,
yeah.
Sean, I totally understand where you're coming at it from. I'm just trying to like. I wish I could say artist to artist. You know, I'm more of like a bullshit artist, but.
There's
Aiden's
also
really
like
refined that craft. That was
like there's also something I've noticed that like alien depictions tend to really resemble like corpses a lot. So I feel like some of that could have been generated by people who have like some sort of hallucination delusion disorder that makes them see things that would disgust or horrify them.
Well,
because like they look like hyper deformed burn victims. You know what I mean? Like anime style hyper deformation.
Sean, before you go too far, again, Aiden made that video. I'm pretty sure that's what he was telling us.
Wait, how did you sit there photoshopping that, or did you generate those images?
No, those AI generation, but a lot of my
a little bit of everything, you know.
Yeah. So what I'm saying is like
it
the
started
general
a twinkle in his eye, and then it ended up on your computer screen. You know, it's pretty cool.
But like the general consensus of what an alien looks like in the human mind is literally just a corpse. Like if you think about it this way, you have got common ancestry with a starfish, an octopus, a tree. Those things are all Earthlings. An alien's going to be more different from you than that. Generally speaking,
I think actually octopi were brought back from.
You're overthinking
Europa,
it. You have to take it from the. That's like you having this.
But it's not going to be Star Trek with rubber foreheads, you know.
No, but remember Rick and Morty? How there's like a new character, and then everyone like.
Well, how are they
you've been here the whole time.
across
That's
the
the
universe?
octopus man.
How are they going to travel? How are they going to create things? They can't really do that if they're water-based, you know, octopuses.
I mean, why would they even interpret space the same way we do?
Like,
they might not even.
No, I mean, we're talking essentially the concept of aliens going in from different solar systems in craft. How are they? You kind of have to have two hands. You have to have
Right.
legs.
But if your like entire existence is generated out of a like magnetohydrodynamic vibration inside the sun, if that's what you are, you're a self-propagating wave inside of a star, then you won't even have a
We're
conception
not
of
talking about
planets.
that type of life.
The whole universe is going to be the plasma of that star to you.
Well, no, so I think this is an important distinction when it comes to the Drake's equation and when it comes to what is it?
There's intelligence hiding
the
everywhere.
Fermi paradox, right? So again, if you're telling me there's aliens and they're from our solar system and they look humanoid, I could, if the backside of the moon or Mars had like avatar-like people, or
no, you guys are on this premise that life.
As soon as you're coming from another solar system, all bets are off. Dude.
Places.
All bets are off. That was the point I was making. And there's just a huge difference between like being able to bounce around in our solar system and like aiming and pointing and hoping, convincing 100 people to get on a ship and maybe you made it there and back. I mean, who knows?
But if you were an Alpha Centauri, what would you even look for on Earth?
Come on. You're talking about a 1,000-year journey, and
it's okay.
What is time if you're in a data system and then you just print your body when you arrive, right?
Well, yeah, it wouldn't. Oh, okay, that's interesting. And maybe they would choose.
You're trying to send a representative.
Like if you could send your body, like you would have to first get, even if it's just through
Andreas
a data,
right.
Even if you're going from one inch to another inch, like from one USB to another USB, it's gonna be faster through light.
No. If you can get from Alpha Centauri to here, you can download your consciousness into whatever you want. Like if you're that advanced, then that's how advanced you are. Pretty much.
Yeah, but then
wait. That's not actually travel though, because like there was a good science fiction thought experiment about it where there were teleporters, and then the teleporters started malfunctioning, and they would appear in the other end before the body was totally deconstructed in the leaving end. And they realized that, okay, so for a brief moment, there are two of you, and then one of you is ripped apart and destroyed forever.
How conscious do you think? How conscious do you think a mushroom?
Your hair looks fantastic today.
Okay, guys, one at a time here, one at a time, and try not to monologue too much so somebody can get.
It's Andreas.
I forgot what I was gonna say. No, mushrooms. How much consciousness can a mushroom share with another conscious? Let's say a mushroom were to break off and to colonize another side of a lake. Okay, so there's a mushroom on one side of a forest, and then there's a lake. There's another mushroom, but it was the original mushroom at one point. And somehow through mycelial net, it is able to get in contact again after a century or a few generations, whatever it is. Do you think that it's able to communicate its experience to become a collective again? Isn't that exactly how mushrooms work? And so is it able then to have the memories that it's stored from being a 4,000-year-old mushroom on one side of the lake and as multiple generations on the other side of the lake? Is it able to become a simultaneous siphonosphoric superorganism?
I suppose.
I hope so.
I mean, it really depends on the fidelity of the signals it's processing. If it's getting hit by light and the light's doing nothing but warming the general size of the mass of the body, then it's not going to see anything. But if it has like some sort of photoreceptor that can capture not an individual photon, but an image, like a lens would focus it, then maybe it could see. But memories seem to be a little outside the purview of a single mushroom.
I don't know about that.
Why is that ideas are
what do you think memories are? And it seems like a memory is something that can react to something it's learned from. So if a mushroom knows that winter and it's able to survive over seasons, it has to protect itself with epigenetic changes underneath the snow.
Well, they have a mycelial network underneath the soil. Like the mushroom part that you see is just a fruiting body, really.
Right. So again, the fact that it's able to produce
all
these,
kids call it nowadays,
that it can produce all these parts, isn't that kind of what do you define then as what are you saying in terms of memory? Because it seems to me that mushrooms have the same capacity, the same neurotransmitters, and they're able to send the same.
It is a technology, isn't that what Terrence McKenna said? But go ahead, John. Yeah.
I mean, yeah, it's got to have some kind of mind if it's going to be memorizing something. I feel like if there's going to be a mind, there's got to be some kind of a network, like that underground mycelial network. Maybe it could learn and respond to things. The individual mushrooms, I feel like, are just organs. But yeah, like the underground part, maybe that could store and respond to data effectively. Who knows? They have been known to somehow communicate with trees, I think. I was actually looking at a tree not too long ago, and I realized that, although it happens at a much lower rate, a slower rate, like it responds. Like the roots probably act differently when the sun is shining on it consistently in the summertime than when it isn't being shined on so much in the winter. So
wait,
you know, it
Sean,
kind of
you
does
complete the
transmit
fifth. But
signal.
Real quick, Just Jacob says DNA equals fungi. I was just gonna say, I'm gonna caveat that I don't actually think that's exactly correct. Now, granted, mushrooms are made of DNA, so you are correct. Don't get me wrong. But if you looked at a mushroom mycelial net and you compared it to something like the synapses of the brain, I would say that it looks a lot more like the randomness that you might experience in the synapses of the brain, sort of this pattern that connects mind together. And when there's a seizure or when there's a stroke, the brain finds new nodes, right, that connect together. So I feel like that networking is a better metaphor.
It could easily be a different type of mind that like existed outside of the body rather than inside of it, or outside of any sort of body that we would conceive of.
So on the
rather
Beatles
than
album, the
around.
Lonely Sergeant Pepper's Hearts Club, I totally butchered that. But when you played it backwards, it was saying "Turn me on, dead man, turn me on, dead." And so the term "turn me on" is like nature has a little fruiting body that pops up and offers, because even if a dog eats it or other things other than a human eats it, it raises its consciousness to some extent. It definitely has a profound effect on neuroplasticity and all the stuff, especially if you're eating them like all the time by accident or on purpose. And thankfully, it's a bad way to get lost sometimes. But how strange is it, again, coming from Europe or like a feudal system where like you're eating grass when you starve and like nothing over there pops up out of nature and is like, here, want to have like an awesome 8 hours? Just like eat me. It's like nothing exists like that. Nothing exists like that. And all of a sudden there's like
Dolphins
a whole
have
bunch of them
pufferfish.
over here. What was the question?
Dude, picture this. The CIA, those super sneaky government dudes, are totally using alien conspiracies to like kidnap people for experiments and stuff. Whoa,
Not
right?
true.
So they hang out around state parks and secret bases where all the UFO sightings happen. People think it's aliens, but it's actually the CIA, man. They're
It's just
like
J. Edgar
creating
Hoover.
this
That's
massive
Stephen
smoke screen with
Greer.
all the alien talk, so nobody
Even his
suspects
AI
it's
voice
actually
must be
them.
interrupted. Oh no. Silence.
Oh, that was a voiceover?
Well, so we were talking about half and half and getting split down the middle or something, and I saw a tree splicing technique where you could like hammer a wedge down the center of a tree over the course of like a couple years, and then you would literally split the tree in half, and then you could like go plant them in separate places, and now you have not quite cloning the tree, but a human the same way. I think it's like a ancient
Cloning, the Aspen cloning
torture
splicing
thing where it's like, no, literally you could cut someone down the middle and then like
the
build
split brain
artificially the other half, and then you have two of the person. And
Yeah, they did that for Apple cloning.
That would be really hard to do with a human though, because the left brain controls the right body and vice versa.
but like
There's
the idea is like it's a
lot of
threat that
crossover.
someone's gonna do it to you, and then like show your like loved ones that like, oh, here's his left half and here's his right half.
Oh no, well you can. There's the split brain procedure. Like there are two consciousnesses in each head. And if you cut the corpus callosum, then there can be situations where your right hand is trying to hit someone while the left hand is trying to defend them.
Bizarre.
Yeah, it's really crazy. Like the consciousness comes in stereo. Yeah, that's been observed. And like I said, there's a lot of crossover. Like the left eye does feed the left brain, not as much as it feeds the right brain, but yeah, like there is definitely crossover. You could even observe the two halves of your brain being different, because the self-touch phenomenon where you touch yourself and it's lessened, the actual sensation is lessened because it's you yourself doing it. If you take your thumb and rub the hand that the thumb is on like that, you'll feel it less than if you take it and rub the same spot on your other hand.
Have you heard of the phantom hand technique? No, sorry.
Yeah.
That's where you sit on your
VS
hand for
from
like
Darsham
10 minutes so it's
invented that,
numb,
right?
and then you jerk it. Sorry. Bad joke.
He invented that, I think, with the mirror box. He was trying to help treat phantom limb syndrome, where someone has like lost a hand and they would get cramps in the hand that they don't have anymore. So they would look in a box and put their hand in it, and there was a mirror up the middle, so the person would see two hands. And if you like work the one hand and watch both hands symmetrically do it, the brain would subconsciously let go of the cramp that was in the hand that the person had lost, and it would actually help a lot of phantom limb pain that
There are
wasn't
some very
responding to
serious
drugs.
applications for that sort of thing. Yes, yeah.
Yeah, the brain is really fucking weird. It's a lot. It relies on a lot of external information and context clues to form what your consciousness supposedly is.
What about Geppetto and Pinocchio? Weren't you going to say something about that, Stefan? You sent me a whole thing. We're going to talk about Geppetto.
Oh yeah. Well, you know,
It was on the itinerary.
Scaramucci, who was Trump's press secretary for about 10 days.
I remember that
looked
guy.
up. I didn't want to know what that word meant, and it was like one of the first famous clowns was Scaramucci. And then I was, you know, in this song, the Queen song, where thunderbolts of lightning, very, very frightening. There's
Scaramouche.
Scaramouche, can you do the fandango? And it's like, hey clown, can you do this dance? You know.
But doctor, I am Scaramangi or whatever.
Indeed. I'm trying to share one specific screen here.
I hate screen sharing. It always breaks for me.
Yeah. Maybe I could have Andreas just type it in. It's a book cover, and I want to do a mini Rorschach test before. That's kind of my closing out note. There's like 5 different interpretations of a very simple image, but
there's probably more.
Has lost permission. Oh, interesting. So Andreas, it's called what's it called? Drinking Roses on Sunday. It's a book by Zach Beach, and
now we know what it is.
Well, no. Well, that's the book is written by a guy who lives at an ayahuasca resort, and he's kind of like the resident yogi guy. And like, if you go down there, like he's going to be the guy that's like showing you around. So if you want to kind of ground yourself in the experience,
I know people who've done ayahuasca. It did nothing for them. They think it did something for them, but they always go back to their old shit.
I signed up for an ayahuasca retreat, and like the day before, somehow my pops convinced me not to go, and I don't know if that was a mistake.
I think that may have been a good idea.
Yeah, I don't think you needed it.
Like, I hate to bring up Hunter Biden, but when he did ayahuasca retreat, I think he just found some guy on Craigslist that had the ayahuasca toads.
You know, this was a legit resort. JP Sears' wife. She'd been running a program for about 10 years, and she's a yoga teacher.
I know that chemical. I forget what it's called. Bufotoxin.
Yeah,
it comes from the bufo toad. Yeah,
and then he just got a giant scar on his hand.
Combo.
I mean, if you want to talk about relieving phantom limb syndrome and, you know, undoing trauma that seems unundoable, ayahuasca, to say that it's bad because and to point out like Hunter Biden's experience with it.
No, I know people who've done the ayahuasca thing, and it didn't
Veritasium took an fMRI. He's the only person ever to take an fMRI of his brain before and after. Because that's called, like, if you actually want to look into and use the modern science, because in the ancient wisdom is that it works. It's there for certain reasons. And if you don't...
What if Hunter Biden's all better and we don't know? You know, like, all we know is that he went through a bunch of stuff before he took ayahuasca. Maybe now that he's taking ayahuasca, he's like, you know, astral projecting.
Well, we saw him get high at the White House.
Maybe he's astral projecting and he's sneaking out.
Wait, we saw that? Wait, who saw that? What?
You didn't see him do bumps at the White House? There's a lot of...
I didn't see him do them, but I remember they found a bag of drugs.
No, you could see him take bumps. It was very obvious.
Well, you know, good for him.
I mean, like, so what? What if it's not illegal? What's the problem?
If it wasn't illegal, would it be a problem? It's very American, isn't it?
It doesn't matter. He's still the perfect locale.
And is it the problem that he was on video doing it and he's the president's son? Okay, that's an issue.
The problem is, I don't think you know any cocaine addicts because they're annoying as fuck.
Remember in Canada, there was the Mayor Ford, and he like admits to smoking crack during his term.
Yeah, he got.
Remember that dude?
Yeah, he got stomach cancer and died from it.
And people used to treat marijuana this way. Used to, and yeah, like now it's like legal, so it's like people aren't as worried about it, but they still look at it. And again,
I think the real problem is that
by drugs,
if you vote for like a 90-some-odd-year-old looking guy, and then his son's running the country and he's doing it on a lot of drugs, it's probably kind of weird.
Yeah, my biggest concern.
That's
there
what
is,
happened to
like,
Paraguay. That's how Alfredo
if-
Stroessner lost Paraguay, right?
if Joe Biden can't save his son from fucking fentanyl, then how the fuck are the rest of us supposed to fare? You know what I mean?
Well, and again, that's the point. If the Secret Service doesn't have a way to get Hunter Biden drugs that don't kill him, then they shouldn't do drugs at all. And someone has to
if
go
they
on
can't-
camera and be like, I'm pretty sure I know what this drug is supposed to feel like, taste
If
like,
he doesn't have the
smell
Biden
like,
was-
look like, crush up
ability
like,
to keep
and
his
no, this
family
one's
together.
wrong. And no, we don't want this one. And yes, no, we want 10 of those and we want 8 of these because of this. And it's like every time, and it's like they're talking about a whole science about the way, again, whether it was crystal, and they don't
Wait a
really
second.
know what
Cocaine
they're talking
isn't
about, but they know
fully
what they've
legal.
seen before, you know.
Cocaine is legal for nasal surgery. Nasal surgeons use it because it anesthetizes and constricts blood flow at the same time. It's literally the perfect drug to use in intranasal surgery. So if Hunter Biden was getting legitimate cocaine, it would be cocaine hydrochloride soaked into ethanol.
No, again,
No, what-
Novocaine is made from cocaine.
Novocaine's not a fucking stimulant.
Yes, it is actually, and it has norepinephrine.
Novocaine,
in
yeah, it is.
And again, it's made from it. The dental
Is Novocaine just
in the
branded cocaine?
70s, the orthodontists and the dentists figured out that you could order gallons of liquid cocaine from the government, and they would make sure you pretend it's for an NGO in Africa, and they're not going to give them shit poison. They're going to give them the proper medicinal gallons of. The same stuff John Forte got
Schedule
caught with
2
on-
drug, not
and
Schedule 1.
No, but you turn it into Novocaine, you turn it into lidocaine, and it used to go to the soda fountain. The soda jerk would have like a little button you would push, and out it would come. But yeah,
I feel like that the purified version of it is like, comparing it to liquor. Fewer people died of alcoholism when there was only beer and wine available. And then when you got the super hyper concentrated shit, people started going rowdy and killing themselves with it all the time.
Yeah. I
So,
definitely agree with that.
Yeah, like chewing a coca leaf and snorting a line are probably a world and a half apart.
but so you're
I
saying we
mean,
should go back to prohibition?
There
then?
is like a lot of the the fraternity hazing events. Like I don't think that really even happened in
And
1920s.
I hate to break it. I
Yeah.
hate to break it to you two, but the world's moving.
I know
in the other
cocaine
direction.
addicts.
I don't want to say you're on the wrong side of history, but like all the
What
other
are you-
countries are like just legalizing like all the drugs, and like even in
I
America,
know
where they're
cocaine
not
addicts.
supposed to do what
They're
doing.
not in good states. It's not a good
It's-
way to
yeah, this
live.
is
Like there's
like-
nothing positive about this shit. It's not fucking caffeine. It's not a cup of coffee.
And
It
that's
destroys
people
people's
can't
lives.
control themselves,
That's
get
also
like
true.
get into deadly car accidents.
But
It's not
criminalizing
good.
it and stigmatizing it, where people can't.
I don't think
talk
alcohol
about
should
it
be totally
or
legal either.
get help for it without being criminalized. There's just the way that society is learning.
We have
and
drug
meant to
courts.
deal with it seems to be
We
evolving.
have courts that do interventions on people and will drop the charges if they go through their things. But the thing is, you can't compel somebody to do something in a court of law without having charged them with something first.
And when we're talking about cocaine, let's just be honest. Like, these type of giant IRS cases where people are missing millions of dollars, are funneling money out of their businesses. Like you see a lot of successful restaurants where
Yeah, it just goes right out their noses.
Okay, so Sean, what you
No,
said
like, it
used
was
to be true in the
successful, and
70s
then
and 80s,
there's
and it's
all
in
this funnel
Massachusetts. It's
money.
not true. The courts cannot treatment program.
cocaine is the source of a
Dropping
lot of these
prostitution for
financial
something.
crimes. Like a lot of very dumb, stupid things of not even paying people, stealing large qualities of like.
But so
white
It is
the
collar
doctors
interesting
will
that
put you on
Biden-
stimulants and antipsychotics. And then, but if you are using cocaine and marijuana, which is again a stimulant,
It's interesting to me that there's like a government that we've seen governments on different drugs before. You've seen governments addicted to cocaine before, and like now we have a government with dementia, and we're about to have a government that's got dementia and cocaine at the same time, and that seems really scary.
because sleep is good, like in healthy pattern. But
Yeah, you need
marijuana
to-
is a memory stimulating neurohormone that the body takes up and
feel
has
like-
a whole
Hormone.
endocannabinoid system, and it might
I feel-
cure like.
I feel like a drugged out presidency is going to be really dangerous and scary.
Yeah, I feel like a president should have
Joe
a clear
Biden's
fucking
eyes
head.
were at the debate, dude.
I feel like he's on a Medtronic bag. You guys know what a Medtronic bag is?
Where
He
they
looked
just-
like he
they
was on some
auto
bath
inject.
salts, man.
So yeah, these Medtronics are these like little bags that they have that they have a
Diabetics
little
use
Bluetooth on
those.
your phone. Well, a lot of people use them for like, let's say you have to pump penicillin or diabetes medicine is actually another great example because you can have it all day long. But yeah, you could have PEDs, PEDs, right? Like PEDs.
Not really like. I mean, you could put EPO in through something like that.
Sean, you wanted to talk about the debate, and does anyone else agree with me that Joe Biden looked like he was on Crocodile? He was standing with his mouth open. And so the only question I have
I
is,
thought that was just
heroin.
like he's like
the question is, did someone try to kill him and poison him and swap out his actual medicine for fucking smack?
The guy
because
likes
his
to ride
eyes
a-
were bloodshot, and his mouth
Biden likes
was
to
agape.
ride. Well, the funny thing was like I started thinking this because Biden likes to ride bicycles, right? And like who remember bicycle riders? They're all wearing those chump Lance Armstrong bracelets. Like what would Lance Armstrong do? You know, like what would Jesus do, kind of thing. And
Yeah.
Lance Armstrong would take PEDs and steroids.
Well,
and
everyone
missing
was
a nut,
he
dude.
did steroids.
doing
He
it.
did EPO.
He was literally
He took
missing
something
a
that
nut.
increases-
He had testicular
he-
cancer.
He took something that increased the amount of oxygen his blood could carry. He didn't take anything that. If he took something to increase his muscle mass, it would have screwed up his times.
Dude, he came clean about this stuff, man. You don't need to defend his honor anymore.
No, I'm just saying it wasn't steroids.
Everyone was doing it at the same
endurance
yeah, no,
drugs.
I'm.
Everyone was
Right,
blood
right.
doping.
Testosterone.
But the idea that the president is taking
Vaccine.
like live updates all the time seems like a good idea. Anything else?
I do think Joe Biden's been
Oh.
taking performance enhancing, like, I think he's been taking some, like, a sleep depressant drug, like Modafinil or something like that. I think he may be taking ADHD drugs, but he would be taking those every day.
Yeah.
Honestly, I do
probably.
think he was on some kind of amphetamine because of the aggression that he showed during the debate. Like when he was like, "You're the sucker, you're the loser." He was literally like snarling at Trump.
Kind of, but it was also like
it was primal.
I'm
about his
assuming he
dead
got rid
son.
of that. He can get rid of that. Like he can tone it down, but I think after 6 or 7 days, he has prime care, and for him just to kind of like just go into
Bless
that
you.
debate, just kind of like,
Well, so is anyone on stream here? Has anyone like had someone that really struggled with something the way Hunter Biden has, and either passed away or is still kind of in limbo?
I come from Long Island. Yeah, I know people who had
but so,
problems
like,
with it.
Do you think it's like fun on a daily basis for people to throw it in your face like it's something wrong with you, that like you're one of your
That you're not
sons
like that?
did
No,
drugs,
Hunter
or that
has
one
done
of your
things-
sons is dead? or-
Hunter has done things, and his dad and the people around him have done things that made Hunter Biden a perfect target for infinity on this.
Honestly, it's not even Hunter Biden. It's really the fact that Joe Biden wasn't able to like get him the help he needed or, clean him up. Because like, if he can't help his own son, how is he supposed to help the rest of us?
The DNC couldn't even
Politicians
hire
are
a card
absentee
wrangler
parents.
just
That's
to
the
make
job.
sure that Hunter wasn't doing drugs. You know that you can hire somebody.
Once your son is like over again, Joe Biden wandered the
He's
streets as a
54.
10-year-old in like
By the way, this
poorest
is
parts
not
of
like-
the country. I mean, what do you mean?
They couldn't
Like,
just
what-
hire. They didn't even try to hire him somebody just to make sure he doesn't do drugs or do something
What do you
stupid.
mean to make sure he doesn't do it?
He needs his fucking family. That's what he needs.
So here you are. You're the
Nothing
son
else
of a
gonna
vice
do it.
president, and you have armed guards following you all around, and you're kind of paranoid, and you're like trying to ditch your detail all the time. And when you do, you kind of like meet some really crazy people, and you go out on a lamb, and then they reel you back in, and it feels like a bad joke.
Yeah, it's like a fucking
Because
yo-yo.
you're never
That's-
allowed to just like, hey guys, like let me do my thing. Bye. And no, they're always going to be there.
If I know anything about addicts, half of the thrill is fucking hunting for that shit. So probably Hunter Biden didn't even just get addicted to actually doing the drugs. It probably got addicted to sneaking around and getting one over on everybody.
I think it was
Yeah,
a way.
there was a little bit
It was
of
a
that.
way
He did
to
talk
cope
about how
with
he has
being
a
a
nose for
targeted
finding people that had
individual
crack.
who is.
All right,
being
one at a
gang
time.
stalked. Okay, it's called being a targeted individual who's being gang stalked, and most people who say that, it's hard to
Are under
prove.
investigation or schizophrenic.
Okay, but now
Either
if
they
Hunter
committed tax
Biden-
crimes,
If Hunter
either they
Biden
committed something that's nonviolent, and
or
they don't need to
someone
be
who
taken
has
down
a-
immediately.
Okay, one at a time. Okay, if detail that they can't escape, are they or are they not being gang stalked?
Oh yeah.
Okay, so how to deal with that, and to deal with the fact that never in the rest of your life will you ever be able to escape that, you might become somewhat self-destructive or reckless because that streak might not have been there before, actually.
I'm going to counter that though, because Hunter Biden, just from his baby mama's very interesting biography, her version of what happened is that Hunter was very good at being not noticed when he was living in DC in 2015 to 2018. People were not really pointing at him.
I never knew his name until Biden was president.
People did not recognize him. He was very good at just being, he would do his drugs not publicly. I don't know if that's
again
true.
When you are being gang stalked 24/7, 365. Let me finish the sentence. Ready. Whether you or not you do your drugs in public is the choice of the people who surround you and either choose to take the pictures from your camera or take pictures of you and then publish them. Because if you're saying he may have been doing drugs during that time, but at least he didn't do them in public, again, that was the choice of the people around him. And
well, he took the pictures.
You got to admit, the one where the cigarette is hanging out of his mouth, that's a badass picture. That's some John Wayne shit.
I mean, people were giving him a lot of money, but I will say the idea that people were gang stalking him was not true at that time.
How do you figure, buddy?
He had Secret Service on him, right?
No, he did not in 2015. He did not.
Wasn't Obama president at that point?
No, this is 2000. Like once 2016 rolled, he had no Secret Service. He didn't care to.
2015, and actually, I have not looked into when his issues started. And again, he also lost his mother and his brother. And like he lost his mother
when he was 3.
Wow, that sucks.
But his
Jill
dad
Biden
drank
is
all.
his mom.
Joe
It's
Biden
not
crack all the time. Again, he would. His
doing it
dad
every
was
30
known
se-
for
like 30
smoking crack
minutes.
and drinking all the time to deal with his stutter.
He doesn't have a stutter.
I've never heard Hunter Biden speak. I don't know what his voice sounds
I'm
like.
saying the pops did.
Oh,
Yeah, I mean, Joe doesn't really have a stutter either. I mean, before like 10 years ago, he did not have a stutter.
I've heard him stutter once or twice, but I've also heard him do a lot of things that aren't stuttering.
He had a lot of confidence-induced lying, like of just hard like.
And we're not going to talk about how there's actually two Bidens, and it's easy to tell when one of the fake Biden is doing the impersonation of the. They've learned it, like, and then there's the guy who's actually a stuttering or like doddering.
If you see Joe, you could see a lot of the speech impairment thing that has been happening to Biden when you see him.
It's not even speech; it's
Ryan,
actual thoughts.
Again, the way he could be retired on a beach somewhere with his car or being a professor, and he didn't want to run, and one way to try to kind of bow out gracefully is what he said specifically. He's like, I'll have an episode on stage. They'll diagnose me with something, and then Kamala will be president. And that's how.
When did he say that?
Right at the beginning of maybe it was even in one of the debates. He said
like when he was saying like he was a bridge to the next generation of Democrats or something.
Like he's going to like retire just so the Democrats could have a black woman as president. Oh my God!
Like who is running after Biden? Like who is likable and known?
Well, the funny thing
when
is,
Biden is on
all the money
stage, who's
has
being
to go to
president?
Kamala Harris, but there's a problem with Kamala Harris. Her running, she cannot have Gavin Newsom be her running mate because he's from California. Yeah. There's a constitutional reason, and Democrats hate white males, so they're not going to have them. He has to like.
Wait. There's a constitutional reason why Kamala Harris can't have.
Nope, you can't have
Gavin Newsom.
One of your joke I came up with about who's president. Here's what it is. Someone asks you.
Wait.
Sir,
the sound.
That's just Andreas is putting calming ocean noises on for us. It's Sunday night. Welcome to the service. Anyways, here's the joke. Someone asks you, sir, do you know who the president is? And maybe it's like a cognitive test or trying, because that's one of the first things the police.
I didn't know you. That was my fault.
I don't give a fuck to you. Oh, you mean like right now? Joe Biden. And so it's like you have to kind of say both things at once. And it's kind of a mouthful. But if someone asks you who the president is, the proper response is, I don't give a fuck to you because again, it's like the dude abides, the presider in chief. The job is like the office manager. And
Yeah,
like
he's
the Queen of
he's
England.
the top
whose
boss of all the
job
feds.
is, like,
That's it.
a mayor. Did you know there's such thing as a deputy mayor?
What's that?
Apparently,
What do you
deputy
mean?
mayor does like all the. There's like maybe a few deputy mayors, but the actual mayor is kind of just the figurehead. And may
Yeah,
have
he's the
no
one who hires
influence
and
over
fires
it.
and
Usually
picks
the
the
town
staff.
manager.
You know, like there's like the CEO of the company, but he hires a bunch of top level managers who then have middle managers, and then the straight up either regular workers or maybe one layer of management over that.
So, Andreas, can you put up the image with the drinking roses on a Sunday? And I just want to see what these guys think, because I was really looking. I had like a 9-day yoga retreat before I was actually going to do the medicine, and anyways. But and maybe Andreas has checked out for a second. But before we end, hopefully he'll throw that up there, and we can play free association. There's a. Scaramouche. So there we go. Okay, so I'll describe for the audience. Just you have kind of a cartoon collage-like image of a guy sitting under a tree on the edge of a body of what appears to be a body of water, and he's got a fishing rod with a line, and on the end of the line, there's a heart. So, what do you see this man doing? And again, there's no right answer. There's like 3 or 4 things that you could
Fishing.
Okay, so what is he fishing for?
He's looking with he's putting his heart on the line, looking for love in all the wrong places.
And I love this. So I'm going to immediately counter. So no, he's caught the heart, right? He didn't put his heart on. He's actually reeling that in.
Really, you're sure?
And it's
That
nature's
looks to
heart.
me
And
like
again, you were also right.
About to. I feel like he's putting his heart down because how
and
is
his heart the bait? Right? Is his heart?
If he caught the heart, wouldn't he be like? That's not what you look like when you're reeling. It's right. Like
true.
He looks too passive, like he's just about to start fishing, not like he's trying to catch the heart.
And this might be what it feels like to work at an ayahuasca retreat center,
really
and maybe not journey all the time, but you're welcoming people in to this magical experience, and everyone has a pretty intense time. And obviously, there's no such. That's why it's not done really in the United States. They're willing to do ketamine. You can get prescriptions for all types of things, but having the insurance kind of coverage and liability to perform these.
I'd stay away from that stuff too.
So ayahuasca comes in. It's at the place I was going to. It was actually going to be San Pedro cactus, and it's still the same shot of black.
That's
goo.
a little button, right? It takes like 10
yeah,
years
and I'm
to
not
grow.
sure how they prepare it. But it's the same active ingredient apparently, but it wouldn't have actually. I couldn't have said I had an ayahuasca experience. I sat in ceremony is what I was.
Ayahuasca is like an extract, right? And the San Pedro cactus is just I think San Pedro cactus is mescaline. Actually, that's something different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, a friend of mine knows somebody who grew one of those, like a religious Native American, and he said it. Literally, the guy had been growing it since he was in his 20s, and it looked like he was in his like 40s or something like that. And the thing was only like smaller than your fist.
And you got to look before you leave. I mean, in high school, there was a neurobio AP class. There was like the smartest of the smartest smart kids. And their final project was they divided up the class and like there was like 10 posters in the hallway, and each one was on a different class of drugs.
Wow.
And like everything from like opiates and like talking about the street version and all, and it was like you could just walk down that hallway, and because otherwise you're asking like your older brother or the internet or
Aeroid. Yeah, there's certain things that I probably would say nobody should fucking ever need to touch, and certain things could probably be used as medicine. But like, yeah, personally, like the hallucinogens, you got to be really fucking smart.
But wouldn't it be a shame if they disappeared, though? Again, it's a technology that we have access to, and I agree. There's a chance that if those mushrooms went extinct, we would never. Oh, actually, we can synthesize psilocybin. Apparently, that was discovered early on. But
We could probably
Bizarre.
synthesize whatever we want at this point.
The equivalent
like,
is an ant walking in the first floor of a skyscraper and rearranging the structure of the floors and the stairs and the elevator. Like that, it's such a small amount of a chemical, and somehow when it makes its way through our entire system, it can, done properly, it's more about what you bring back with you. It's not something to be engaged in recreationally or for fun. It's a cathartic experience, and with mushrooms, it's more of a poisoning and purification afterwards. Whereas whatever Joe Biden was on,
honestly, I really think that Joe Biden was just on a combination of like amphetamines to bring him up, and then some fucking benzos to make him less aggressive, which didn't work.
Yeah,
like,
I think
feel
it's
like that
something
gap
very weird. Like,
closing.
just
I think you have him on uppers and
5
downers.
days.
Andreas, is this a soundtrack from your Squid Game?
These are just whales, bro. I was thinking like we should be listening to whales way more, because like if you think about it, they probably have their own kind of like podcast with like, hey, have you heard what's going on in like the Caribbean? And they're just like,
they live in
yeah.
pods.
I like what you.
Andreas,
I like where your
tell me
head's
about the
at.
Book of Maccabee.
Well, I forget.
Why it's excluded? They took it out.
So like
Maccabee,
Joseph
oh
Smith?
yeah. I had to look it up. Maccabee is, let's pull it up here. Maccabees is a group of Jewish rebel warriors took control of Judea around 37 BCE. They founded the Hasmonean dynasty.
Who's ever heard of the Hasmonean? I mean, I'm Jewish and I've never heard of the Hasmonean. But Asmonea is apparently a demon, a Zoroastrian demon. And so Ha meaning the. And so there was a kingdom named after the anger demon of Mishneh.
Well, all the competing cities' gods were seen as demons by each city that
basically
was looking out.
Good call. Yeah. And then they ended up saying like all of them are bad except for the monolithic king of all the 12 tribes, right?
Well, so if you think about it, if there's going to be a creation myth that involves God, there has to be one to start. Otherwise, it doesn't make sense.
See, there's the Maccabee Games and a Maccabee Warrior, and it almost sounds to me like the Book of Maccabee. It was taken out for like wrong think or wrong speak, and it was because it couldn't be fully relied upon, and so it was probably a book that described how to be like a gladiator or a warrior, and what to eat and what not to eat, and what to lift and pick things up and put them down, and
that's
it
a
just
lot of
wasn't
what
seen
they
as central.
Isn't a lot of Judaism just like how to keep yourself like not sick and well fed and all that and clean?
Yeah, there's more to it. But
They're called
definitely, like,
mikvah. A mikvah bath is a ritual purification, and there
Yeah.
were some settlements in ancient Israel where there was a series of 7 mikvah baths that you had to take on the way into the city and on the way out, and that was where all the fresh water was for these ritual baths. So in 19
Well, like the
2000
Torah says, like you don't read a book on the toilet. Like it's got like basic stuff in there too. It's like you do that in that room and then you leave and then you go do other things elsewhere. It's really that basic. It's like this is how you keep yourself from accidentally giving yourself a disease. Like that's why they survived this long. It's why they made it through the desert. It's because they had rules to keep themselves from dying.
Sure. So,
like I always say, if anybody knows how to keep a good thing going for a long time, it's the Jews. My grandmother was Jewish. I could say that.
Yeah.
was that a Hanukkah reference? Making the candle that make it last 8 nights, you know?
No, but sure, you could interpret it that way. I heard that was actually
it's actually
somewhat
called in Yiddish. It's called a Bobby-meister, and it's a story that your grandma tells you. And a meister means story. Bobby is grandma, and it's like she stretches it out, and she's seeing if you're paying attention. If you have your bullshit detector on, you know, all of a sudden you like slip something in there, and you want the kids are supposed to go, "Hey, grandma, no, wait, that can't be true." A Bobby-meister. That's if you're telling like a little fib, you know, a little story, and you drag it out.
I had an Israeli friend of mine tell me that the Hanukkah story was kind of added in later because They wanted to commemorate some kind of victory. I forget what it was, and so they needed a miracle just to make a holiday. Otherwise,
Yeah, but Hanukkah
Judaism,
makes
they
weird.
can't have.
I used to feel weird about Hanukkah for the same reason, but then I realized, like, one time I was driving to San Diego and I had an empty tank of gas, and I just coasted on E for like 180 miles or something like that through LA into San Diego, all the way to like near the gas lamp, like it was crazy. And I just realized, like I want to celebrate this like every year for the rest of my life, and like my children should probably as well, like light a candle every day
Free
around the time of
energy.
year. So
So a Hanukkah, the menorah is a symbol in genetics. It means that they trimmed the lineage, and depending on whether it's upside down or right side up,
The
it implies
truth is
either
the
that we are
menorah-
diversifying and setting
the
forth
truth
and
is
being
the
fruitful and
menorah-
multiplying, or
the truth
we are.
is
Okay.
the truth is the menorah represents Ashera, the goddess, the wife of El Elyon, and so it's
No, yeah,
kind
they were
of
using
removed-
menorahs.
Yeah, it's removed from the story by the Deuteronomists, but Ashera is still like Ashera.
So, one thing I heard was like, how would you feel about the ancient Romans if the world they left us had no biodiversity? And so, if we're polluting the oceans, and
Have you
we're
been
extincting
to
species
the Mediterranean? It
Well,
doesn't.
I haven't seen any mammoths walking around lately.
Well, right, but so let's
I
say
wonder
there used
about
to be
that
a bunch
because-
of hominid species that looked a little bit like us, but they were a little hairier or taller or skinnier. Or
I would not be
think that
surprised if
based
there are
on what I
mammoths
know-
already back.
What if there was an ancient tribe that claimed that they were the ones that killed? They were the original eugenicists, and they felt that humans were superior, and they did everything they could to build deserts and to stomp out all primates that would compete with us.
That's just evolution. Yeah, if you share a niche, only one species is going to make it.
But again, we're kind of without the biodiversity, and that's why they keep confiscating all the bones, because it's really easy to clone something.
It's why there are no
like a
predators
mammoth,
larger than
like a
10
mammoth.
pounds in most human settlement areas. Because
The what?
humans are a predator and we fill the same niche. So all of those things die. We don't even have to kill them actively. We just change the environment so that their prey goes away.
Over time, yeah.
Yeah.
It's that whole frontal lobe thing, So
It's
in
just
Massachusetts, apparently, when it comes to stop and frisk, under our state constitution, neither an exit order nor a pat frisk can be justified unless a reasonably prudent man in the policeman's position would be warranted in the belief that the safety of the police or that of another person was in danger. So we're talking about a reasonably prudent man in the policeman's position, and that's the standard of the law. Get it?
In New York, it's not even that. It
What?
has nothing to do with safety. Unless the cop suspects them of reasonably committing a crime, they can't search them.
Well, yes, stop and frisk.
It's just such a gentleman's game here in Massachusetts, apparently.
Didn't see
That
coming.
sample was in Retarded Animal Babies, which is a Newgrounds cartoon. I'm mentioning it, not using it.
Yeah, that's a pretty impressive voice. Do you hear that? Can you hear the growl?
That was pretty good.
Yeah, anyway.
I wasn't expecting it. It was kind of scary.
I think that's
A
when
little
the
scary.
dog character
What
started
are
to
some
tell.
other animals that make people happy and calm?
Cats. I love cats.
Oh yeah, cats.
sure.
Hold on. Cats. Let's see here what happens here.
So the presidential
Absolutely.
debate wasn't run by the usual people. I want to know who made money off it.
They wanted to
Just
make their
CNN?
own rules to it.
But
They
Joe
commissioned
Biden
a thing that
did
they
Joe
were
Biden because
doing.
he's not independently wealthy and he's like compromised. He said on stage right
No.
when they're trying to get him to run, "I'm compromised." Like foreign.
Wait, when did he
foreigners
say
give me
that?
money. Yeah, it's like if you've been paying attention and your brain happens to remember everything you hear. It's like
They did not
I
get money
tried.
from it.
no, but type in Joe Biden said I'm compromised. Literally, that's
He
like the
straight
worst thing a
up
politician
tried-
could say about themselves. And he said that as they were trying to get him to run, and it was like, guys, I can't run. I'm compromised.
Well, his son did have a lot of
On
bad
stage.
things happen to him, so that may be it.
Yeah, sometimes
they-
even just having family that you care about is
Yeah,
Yeah.
but the debate, how they did it was they wanted it to be on CNN because they wanted a specific type of debate that did not have an audience or was not part of the big debate commission thing. They wanted to have breaks in between it, so that would mean there'd be.
I think they were also rude to Joe a couple times, but
I did notice that. way unexpected.
It's a little bizarre.
What?
Yeah,
I
I
mean,
don't
they just
like
straight up
Joe?
brought him off.
It's just they give these self-important media figures. Gosh, they got to insert themselves into it
Well,
somehow.
No, I mean that one. They were very specific on what type of questions they could ask. They couldn't fact check or do that thing of that's a false thing. Like the debate moderator could not do that.
Oh
They
yeah, like
chose-
when he said no servicemen died under his watch. I wonder, did he not care enough to remember that they died, or did he not care enough to tell the truth? Which one or the
I
other?
think he just forgot. I think it was also he didn't expect.
Maybe
that
he
question
cared
to be
enough
answered.
to forget and not tell the truth for his country.
It's like Steve Bannon's going to jail for a conversation he had with the president, which means there's a fundamental breakdown, not in law and order, but in the understanding of it. The average person should hear that and go, no, when the president tells you this
He refused to
conversation
go
never
to,
happened,
to
this conversation
Congress.
never happened, buddy. And if you like try to say that it did, you like might get deadified by like his Secret Service because like it's called presidential fucking privilege. And like the president thinks and talks and knows about things that nobody fucking else is really supposed to know about. And so if he talks to you about those things and then you get subpoenaed, you say, you show up and you give a big middle finger to the court. And I guess if you have to like be the fall guy and like do a term, like do a bit again, that's not how it's supposed to work. You're supposed to show up and say, yeah, the guy you're talking about that I'm like keeping secret, he was the fucking president at the time. Thank you very much. Like, so
honestly, I think it's really interesting
Right?
that the past two Democratic candidates, Joe Biden and Hillary Clinton, were both deemed to have committed crimes by prosecutors, and then the prosecutors decided not to charge them for reasons that were not written into the law at all. Like, oh, they cooperated. They didn't intend to
Hur
commit
did
crime.
have his. He gave his interview, the recording interview. It's there. It's in evidence. The Attorney General is not going to give it to Congress right now, and there's big talk about that.
Yeah, Congress could throw him in jail for that. They're trying to.
Focus was cool.
So speaking of Bocus was a cat at
I miss
Timcast,
Bogus.
right?
I got to pet Bogus once.
So Cats and Dogs was a movie that Andreas assigned as homework for someone else on the stream. And I was just noticing that there was definitely some sort of inside joke that the animators used. And there were times where the dogs' tails would block their assholes. And again, it sounds like I'm just being obscene for obscenity.
They animated
but one thing you
that?
don't think, it's a children's movie. And when a dog is walking away from the camera and its tail's up, there's a dog asshole fucking on camera. And like a human asshole is definitely not allowed anywhere. That's disgusting. And you were obscene and you should go to jail for even thinking about putting an asshole in a children's movie. But if there's dog assholes, apparently it's fucking fine. And like throughout the movie, you could like there were certain dogs that like three of them would run and like their tail would be like awkwardly hiding it, and then like blatantly like one cuts like right in front of the screen, and like you don't really notice. It kind of blends in as par for the course.
I mean, it's a dog. You don't really think much of it, I guess.
Right, but if you're actually animating it all from scratch, you like so boss. Do you
Stared at it
want
for hours.
the dog be whole or not? And if he's like, just make it look normal, you're like,
They do that with cats, too.
Pretend I'm autistic and give me some specific rules.
Like they had that like Cats movie where it was like half live action, half CGI all at the same time. And apparently there's a cut where they all had buttholes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Quality.
I saw it. I don't know what you want
I
me to
feel like
say.
we should just go back to rubber hose animation, like, Mickey Mouse 1900, whatever, that type of shit.
I think it was important for us to reach like that point of like making cats with buttholes was when they realized, you know what, maybe hyper realism or your dream isn't really what selling a movie's all about.
But as
We've
far as
learned a lot.
subversive things in kids'
Like
movies,
graphics and video games, I think we realize we don't need to have the most realistic graphics.
Yeah.
People don't care. A lot of it has to do with cat's butthole. I really think it does.
well, so the Cats and Dogs, right at the end of the movie, there's a big explosion in this house. In the way, there's a sign that falls off it in pieces, which made me want to go back and watch it at 0.25 speed. And when I did, right when the explosion happened, there's a, it's like,
Oh,
what?
God.
And then as soon as you hear it, it doesn't matter what speed you play it back at. At that movie, there's like a woman sexually groaning at the moment the explosion. And it's only because I went back to look at something visual that I was also then listening. And again, it's like an inside joke that it's a little Easter egg. What's it called? A breadcrumb.
Easter eggs,
or
right?
something.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah, animators are fucking sick. Like, if you look through a lot of the history of animation, they've been literally trying to hide as much shit as they can in a lot of stuff. It's been wild. Like, what was that movie with the mice? Like, I think it was The Great Mouse Detective, was it? Where they had literally like a frame from porn in one of the background windows, and Disney only recently removed it from the re-release. And they had the Little Mermaid with the dildo right on the cover. Like, what the fuck was that? Like, are you shitting me?
Now there's like protections on iPads and stuff, but there was a time there where like if you talk to 100 people, like how many people, when you had an encyclopedia, you go look up sex, you go look up like the words that you're like, I wonder what.
Oh yeah, you're feeling like fucking third grade biology.
What happens when a 10 or 11-year-old? What happens when a 10 or 11-year-old is given access to the internet for years?
I've been on the internet since I was 5, bro.
Unabridged, okay, but like
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, it fucks you up.
As Bo Burnham said, like, welcome to the internet. You know, have a look around.
Dave Chappelle had that skit where it was like, hey, body, if the internet was a mall and like everybody was just trying to sell them porn.
Oh, goodness.
Damn, it's been a while.
Well, it's like I actually had a friend in Miami who, when she was 14, went online and like participated in a chat room, and some guy came and picked her up and raped her and dumped her off on the other side of town in the middle of the street. And, you know, she found her way home, and her dad then screamed at her and blamed her. And, you know, that was how she lost her virginity. You know, so the internet's like great, you know.
Yeah, I'm glad things are a little bit more locked down than they used to be.
No, we need to continue to warn the next generation that
IP.
these things will happen. And again, it's like the thing is, this person didn't tell their daughter. I'm going.
See, that's one of the reasons I don't hate AI.
But like, you know,
like you could have an AI just constantly monitoring like your kids' text messages, and then if something uncouth goes by, it could auto alert you to it, and you could always also check to see if it missed anything.
Yeah, but that's if it's like by happenstance, let alone being targeted. You know?
No, I mean, whatever messages go in and out of the device get checked.
And it like used to be, what was the movie with, you don't go after the family, you know, you don't go after women, you don't go after children. If you have a problem with someone, you take it up with them. No, this was the movie about cocaine. Tony Montana.
Flow.
No,
Scarface.
Tony Montana. What the one
Scarface.
where he shoots? Yeah, thank you.
He did a terrible Cuban accent in that movie. Like, he just made up an accent and just went with it, and like nobody corrected him.
I still want to know if he put his own heart on the end of that line. Does that mean he doesn't have a heart in his chest anymore? Or was that like
what?
Of his heart? I'm just thinking back to that book cover.
Oh, the fishing picture.
That's so meta, it is so meta, we got so meta. You matter, I matter, we matter. Trump should hold an impromptu season of The Apprentice to determine who his VP is, and we'll all watch Ivanka steal the show. How about them apples?
Can Ivanka be his VP?
Yep. Why not? Tell an insurance policy.